We're about to have two major planets go retrograde. It's stormy out. There's a lot happening right now. I'm Erin, I'm Queen Bee Tarot. Welcome back to my channel. I'm excited to tell you all about it and how you can prepare yourself for the storms that are coming. I've got timestamps below. I've got detailed horoscopes for all 12 zodiac signs. I'm going to start with a general overview for the collective, giving you a taste of the energy that we're stepping into. And I also have a tip jar below because I am a one-woman show. These are a labor of love. So if you feel inspired and able to contribute, every amount is appreciated, no matter how big or how small. Thank you. So let's get in. We just came out of a crazy full moon that was conjunct the wrecking ball of astrology, Uranus. And then shortly after that full moon that brought a lot of change, transformation, and upheaval, we also had Pluto finally move into Aquarius for good, representing the completion of a 250-year cycle. Now, I don't know about you guys, but things have been crazy. In my neighborhood, I had a drunk driver crash his car in spectacular fashion, hit a tree, flip a few times, and then they were fine, which was nuts. And then we had a cyclone hit our town with wind speeds the equivalent of a Category 2 hurricane, and our power was out for a few days. So feel free to share your stories below about how life is crazy or things are completely nuts, because I just want you guys to know you are not alone. There's a lot happening personally, collectively, and everything in between. And since we've got these two major planets about to go retrograde, I'm here to give you the scoop, the details, how you can prepare yourself for this stormy energy that's coming through. So let's get in. Everybody knows about Mercury retrograde, right? It's associated with miscommunications, emails or texts sent to the wrong person, word not getting through, misunderstandings, all kinds of stuff like that. And that's because Mercury is known as the messenger, named after a character from mythology. Its movement around the sun happens really, really quickly. And it actually goes retrograde multiple times throughout the year, simply because in our solar system, we on Earth kind of move ahead of Mercury. And so it looks like Mercury's going backwards. It's not really, but from our perspective, it appears to be. And so when Mercury, the messenger, goes backwards, from our perspective, it is the sense that communication, thoughts, messages, agreements, paperwork, things like that, they need extra time, extra care, extra attention. So don't rush through anything over the next few months. Yes, few months. Simply because there's so much that really needs us to slow down and focus and be present. To be here now is an exercise. It is a challenge, and most humans really struggle at it, but we're here, we're in this together, right? And so what I'm hoping to do is share a little bit of personal experience and personal struggle, help you guys understand you are not alone, and fumbling through it is totally the name of the game, right? So Mercury is currently in the zodiac sign Sagittarius. It's not necessarily at home here, but it's kind of like a car with no brakes. The reason I say that is because Mercury the messenger is already moving super fast. And the zodiac sign Sagittarius is a fire sign, so elementally there's a quickness to it. Now Sagittarius is represented by a centaur that's a half man, half horse, and he's an archer with a bow and arrow. The indication of this zodiac sign, the representation, is to shoot for the stars, whether it be going after a goal, an education, philosophy, anything like that. Sagittarius encourages us to be sparkly, to be jazzy, to think outside of the box, to do things differently, and most importantly, don't worry about blending in. Don't worry about fitting in. And when Mercury the messenger is in the sign of Sagittarius, sometimes it's like not having a filter, because the words come so quickly that we may speak without thinking. We may say things that are inappropriate. We might let secrets or cats out of a bag, right? And to open a can of worms is a lot of the chaotic transformational energy that's been happening. A lot of people are speaking off the cuff, but at the same time, it's almost like the rules of the game are being changed, and In life, we have to continually readjust. In life, we have to continually kind of turn our metaphorical sails, like a sailboat, a ship. We have to metaphorically kind of adjust our sails according to the wind, according to the energetic frequencies and the ways in which the force, the universe is flowing. So this is an amazing time to kind of rethink, how are you setting your sails when it comes to shooting for the stars? And are there any major or minor adjustments that need to be made in order for you to really end up on the path that you're wanting to be on, to hit that end goal that you're ultimately hoping for and striving for, right? So in this sense, Mercury retrograde is not all bad, because Sagittarius is not inherently linked to anything associated with Mercury. Sagittarius is not linked to communication, emails, networking, and that sort of thing. Sagittarius is linked to fire, to goals, to inspiration, and things like that. And so Mercury being retrograde in Sagittarius has to do with rethinking goals. It's also about rediscovering hope, rediscovering or resparking the light inside of you. And so it is indicated as much as it's a collective experience. Anytime any planet goes retrograde, we are encouraged to go deep within, and to go back over what it is that we're experiencing. Now, with Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius, Sagittarius is ruled by the planet Jupiter. And Jupiter just so happens to be exactly opposite Mercury right now in the zodiac. Jupiter represents belief systems. And when Jupiter and Mercury are interacting on any level, we are encouraged to kind of go back over our belief systems. So with Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, one of the biggest themes is asking yourself, do my thoughts, do my beliefs, do my imagination, do the words that I use, or any of those things, do those things open doors? Or does my belief systems and my headspace, does that close doors? That's the biggest question. And so if you can simplify your experience and come back to, are these thoughts leading me towards freedom? Or are these thoughts leading me towards a prison? That's going to answer all of your questions. That's the theme of Mercury retrograde right now. So Mercury goes retrograde on Monday, November 25th, and it will be retrograde for just shy of 3 weeks, 20 days, up until December 15th. And that's pretty typical for Mercury retrograde. Adding to Mercury retrograde is Mars. Now, Mars is the planet of action. Mars wants to have a straight shot towards a goal. It is linked to the zodiac sign Aries. And so with Mars being retrograde, it means that the planet of action is kind of like, it's like having an anchor on your boat. It's the desire to move forwards, but feeling as though for every step forwards, you take 2 steps back. This is going to be a frustrating time. It's going to be a time of wanting to shoot for the stars, but feeling like there are obstacles, there's checkpoints, there's review moments. So I just like to prepare everybody so that if there's anything that you're pushing really hard for, I just want you to know, so you're not alone, that this is the collective experience, the personal experience right now. Feeling stymied, feeling blocked, feeling obstructed in some way. Now, Mars, the planet of action, is currently in another fire sign, Leo. Now, Leo is a fixed fire sign. It likes things to stay the same. And it's a fire sign that is associated with our personal perspective, whether it be character development, pursuit of joy, or simply kind of figuring out who we are. So with Mars and Leo, the action that we're taking is somewhat self-centered. That's okay. A healthy level of selfish is important every now and then. But one of the ways in which we might really notice this Mars retrograde is if the action that we're taking is too self-centered, we may experience a feeling like we're thrown back to start, thrown back to the beginning and having to start from scratch. The other thing too is that we're going to be invited during this period. Now Mars is going to be retrograde, let's see, December 6th to February 23rd. of next year. So it's a solid 3 months. Well, let's see. Yeah, 3 months, just shy of 3 months, that Mars is going to be retrograde. So be prepared to feel as though plans are being put on hold. Action is being pushed back to start. But any time in which we are being redirected, instead of trying to channel the Kool-Aid man and bust through any of those obstacles we have, the collective experience, the energetic potential right now is don't push. Don't throw yourself through a wall, through an obstacle. Anytime we hit any kind of resistance or friction, it doesn't mean give up, but it does mean rethink your approach. Success is very deeply intertwined with the energy that we bring to a situation. And with Mars being retrograde in Leo, fire signs are associated with the energy that we bring to a situation. And so if we're bringing a lot of ego to a situation, we're going to be invited to really check ourselves and ask ourselves, okay, maybe I need to kind of tone it down a notch, right? Or maybe I need to rethink why it is that I'm doing this. And so with Mercury and Mars being retrograde over the next little bit, one of the biggest things that we could also ask ourselves is, in the nature of change, in the context of wanting to evolve and transform and live our best lives, if we are making any changes, I want you to ask yourself, in whose name do I make those changes? Do I make those changes because they're going to help me live my best life? Or am I changing things? Am I adjusting? Am I resetting my sails on my boat because it's going to benefit somebody else? Because it's going to make somebody else happy? Those are really important questions to ask, because sometimes we don't really understand why we're hitting blocks, obstacles, and kind of asking those bigger questions and simplifying our perspective of the experience is going to help us understand, why is this happening and how can I work around it? Or how can I kind of adapt my approach in a way that's really going to ensure my success? So one of the things you might really notice over the next couple of months is feeling as though things are coincidentally blocked or interfered. I have found that a lot. My psychic coach years ago taught me to pray on a regular basis, just praying to my angels, non-denominational. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Just praying to my guides and angels in a way that I give them permission to help me anytime, anywhere, any place, even if I don't know that I need it. If it's in my highest good, if it helps me be my best self or live my best life, if you guys see it needs to be done, by all means, go right ahead. And the more that we can be aware, with situational awareness or peripheral vision, if we can be aware of all of the different factors at play, that way, if we come up against some sort of an obstacle or a challenge, and we kind of take a step back, instead of pushing, instead of forcing our way through, take a step back and go, maybe my guides and angels are actually trying to do me a solid. And instead of pushing with ego and persistence, what if I take a step back and go, I wonder if this obstacle, this closed door, I wonder if this is actually in my highest good. Maybe it's better that I don't go through with this. Maybe it's better that I kind of check myself or reconsider my options or rethink my plan and my approach, right? So that's the biggest thing. I would recommend just across the board, if you experience any challenge, obstacle, friction, whatever, pause. Don't push. Now I want to jump back to Mercury, because we were talking about Mercury being in the sign of Sagittarius right now. And I was saying just a second ago that Mercury is currently opposite Jupiter in the zodiac wheel. Now Mercury is in Sagittarius, but it doesn't belong there. Mercury is considered to be at home in Gemini. Jupiter is in Gemini, but it's not considered to be at home there. Jupiter is considered to be in Sagittarius, where Mercury is. And so there's a sense that these two planets that are very directly connected as far as what we believe, what we think, and what we say, these two planets kind of being in each other's seats is a metaphorical representation of feeling like maybe things are just completely backwards. feeling like maybe you woke up on the wrong timeline, or things just feel really discombobulated, right? And so anytime we come to realize on a personal, professional, or collective basis, anytime we come to realize that things are really just not ideal, not as we want them to be, not even making any sense at all, right? There's no sense in progressing. There's no sense in pushing. There's no sense in continuing. The only thing that really makes sense is to stop and reassess. And like I said, the number one question that you can ask yourself is, do my belief systems, do the words that come out of my mouth, do they open doors? Do they lead to my freedom? Or are the belief systems and the words that I use and the perspective that I have, is that leading to prison? Is that leading to a sense of feeling trapped or restricted or held back? Because as Louise Hay said, if you can change your mind, you can change your life. And I have found that to be profoundly true. The older I get, the more I realize that as much as I have valid issues with things in my life, 95% of the time, if I can change my energy, if I can change my approach or my perspective, that's what makes the biggest difference of all. And so going internally is always going to be the message of any retrograde journey, but even more so right now. So aside from that, aside from these two major planets going retrograde, we do also have a new moon coming up. So I'm just going to run you through what we've got. We're looking at November 24th to December 7th. It is a 2-week period covering these retrogrades, covering a new moon, and bringing us into the final month of 2024. Pretty wild, hey, you guys? Like, just to think, this year flew by. It's been like a crazy episode of some reality TV show. It's been completely batty. But yeah, we're getting through it, right? We're getting through it together. We're going to start starting at November 24th. It is a Sunday today. The moon is in Virgo. And the moon in Virgo is actually forming a challenging square to Jupiter and Mercury right now. So that means that on an emotional level, we want to be healthy, we want to be happy, we want to feel like things are lining up the way they should be. And what we're noticing, what we're feeling, what we're seeing is that things are not going in the direction that we want them to. Now, everybody, of course, is going to have a very unique, very individual experience here. You may feel as though things are just slightly off, or you may feel like things are tremendously off. But the collective energy that we're experiencing as we start this 2-week period is noticing the cracks, noticing the disorder, noticing any discombobulation in ourselves or around us. Now, Monday, the moon moves into Libra, and Monday, Mercury goes retrograde. So, of course, Mercury retrograde on a Monday. I feel like this happened a couple months ago, too, that Mercury retrograde started on a Monday. It figures, whatever. There's definitely kind of this energy of, even if it feels like we're going backwards, even if it feels like progress is stalling for a little bit, with the moon moving into Libra at the same time Mercury retrograde starts, we do have a hint that the collective experience, the individual experience happening here is ultimately going to result in rebalancing. It's just that sometimes when we start, we don't really know where things are going to lead. So we just have to take things one step at a time, one day at a time, sometimes just 1 minute at a time, right? The other thing that's coming through is that, you know, as this week begins, like I said, the ultimate result of all of these transitions is going to be rebalancing. But sometimes, like I said, it's just really hard to see, okay, how the heck is this going to come together, right? Tuesday, Venus forms a really challenging angle to Jupiter. So there is a taste of being hopeful, seeing beyond the immediate third dimension reality that we have in front of us, and being able to really visualize or imagine the ideal outcome. And I have talked to so many people, I've watched so many videos and read so many books on the subject of living your best life and working through any challenges you may have. And the consensus amongst all the masters out there is to not put too much weight on what's happening right here, right now, in order to change your timeline, in order to change your reality. You have to have just eyes on the prize, imagining that ideal outcome. And no matter what happens in your world right here, right now, say yes and. Yes, I am, for example, yes, I'm struggling financially and I am working towards a better future, right? We want to make sure that our brains, our spirits, our hearts are able to kind of connect the dots. So no matter what happens over the next few weeks, few months, see if you can continually remind yourself of what that ideal outcome is, whether you're seeking money, love, career, stability, whatever it is. Imagine that ideal outcome and keep working towards that. It also helps to visualize, meditate, hold that ideal outcome in your heart and in your mind until it tastes real. You can smell it, you can feel it, then you can be it. That's how we do it. So, November 27th is a Wednesday. The sun forms a really supportive angle to Mars, which means that as far as our character development, as far as how we go about living our lives, we are coming into a place of acceptance on some level as far as whatever action does need to be taken. So we are seeing an introduction of clarity, an introduction of understanding, the beginning stages of, I may not like this, but I'm getting a sense of what I need to do in order to get where I want to go, right? Thursday, November 28th is American Thanksgiving, and of course the moon is going to be in Scorpio. Whatcha? A little bit spicy to say the least, but I want to say if you have flexibility, if you're an American, if you plan on celebrating American Thanksgiving, Thursday's energy is crazy spicy. If you would like to have a little bit more of a peaceful and lighthearted gathering and you're able to wait until the weekend has much more peaceful astrological energy. Just putting it out there. On American Thanksgiving, which is the Thursday, the moon will be in Scorpio and it is going to form a challenging square to Mars in Leo. This is like textbook potential for arguments, fights, disagreements, and especially ego battles that end up leading to things that cannot be unsaid. So just be really careful. If you don't want to completely drop an atom bomb on your relationships, best to zip it. Best to avoid tricky situations or challenging interactions, right? Just putting it out there. Friday, November 29th, the moon forms in opposition to Uranus. So that really continues that spicy, feisty energy. But it does pass, it does move on. By November 30th, which is a Saturday, the moon moves into Sagittarius and the moon forms a supportive angle with Mars. So night and day difference. Saturday is going to be way more friendly, way more peaceful. If you could choose a day to get together with family, I would vote for Saturday. Sunday, December 1st, we have a new moon in Sagittarius. So like I said, Sagittarius is a fire sign that's all about shooting for the stars, aiming for that ideal outcome, not worrying too much about whatever it is you're struggling with here, but elevating your experience with hope. And Sagittarius is a very lighthearted sign. Great at cracking a joke. That's definitely my coping mechanism. I'd rather laugh than cry if possible. So that's definitely the energy of Sagittarius season. Now a new moon in Sagittarius is an opportunity to kind of hit reset when it comes to your personal goals. Sagittarius is associated with the traveler, the adventurer, the thrill seeker. It's also associated with the free spirit. And Sagittarius is deeply connected to themes of philosophy, spirituality, higher education, and really kind of stretching outside of your comfort zone in order to achieve your ideals. It is ruled by the planet Jupiter, which is expansion. Jupiter is a very, very lucky, beneficial planet, and so we can expect during Sagittarius season, which goes until the third week of December, we can expect during this time that no matter what it is that's happening, personally and collectively, we will have a little bit of an easier time either laughing it off, cracking a joke, avoiding troublesome situations or people, and just kind of keeping it fresh, moving on, right? It is a perfect opportunity to learn. That is the best way that we can take advantage of this energy, is to give ourselves new opportunities. If you feel stagnant, if your life, if your relationships, if your career feels stagnant, the answer to any of those things, especially during Sagittarius season, is to learn, is to read, is to study, is to try something new, change your surroundings, rearrange your furniture, shake things up a bit. That's how you're going to find freedom. That's how you're going to find room to grow. And that's how you're going to really expand your potential and your possibilities. The new moon in Sagittarius is an awesome time to hit reset on any of those themes. And at the same time, it's not just about the new moon. Oh yeah, I printed a chart. The new moon means that the moon and the sun are in the same spot in Sagittarius. It's also very close to Eros. Eros is an asteroid that's a lot like Cupid. It is demonstrative love. So it is a heart-centered reset that is happening. And it is very close to Mercury, which will be freshly retrograde at the time, reminding us that we will accomplish the most in our lives when we do so from a place of love, compassion, and faith in ourselves. So definitely kind of really absorbing that hopeful Sagittarius energy. This is an amazing time to do so. And also to give yourself the benefit of the doubt, you know, like a lot of us, every single one of us, feels deeply uncomfortable when we screw something up or make a mistake. But it's really important to remind ourselves that screwing up or making a mistake is exactly how we learn. And it's better to make 1,000 mistakes and ultimately hit mastery than to not make any mistakes at all, but also not grow and not learn anything, right? So giving yourself a little bit of compassion and grace is going to be really helpful. And this is what I was talking about Mercury being opposite Jupiter. So this is a pretty dominant energy right now. Now the new moon is square Saturn. The sun hits an exact square with Saturn on December 4th. So we are always going to be our own worst enemy. We are always going to be the one person that is consistently in our own way. And usually it comes back to something that we believe or something that we think, self-limiting beliefs, big time. And so kind of coming close to that awareness is really going to lock in the first few days of December. December 2nd, which is a Monday, Venus forms a really supportive angle to Uranus, reminding us that the best way to achieve change, transformation, and evolution in our lives is to do so from a place of love. If beating yourself up worked, it would have worked by now, right? But it doesn't. Beating yourself up only serves to break you down and hold you back. All across the board, all of these astrological influences are reminding all of us that love is the truth. And the more that we can align with love, to be the light, to live the light, to share the light, that is how we achieve the goals and the dreams that we are hoping for in our lives. And then, Mercury hits that exact opposition with Jupiter on December 4th. The sun forms a square to Saturn also on December 4th. So that's that realization of, oh, I'm in my own way. My thoughts are limiting my experience here on Earth. My tendency to be stuck in a rut and do the same thing the same way every single time, that's what's keeping me stagnant and stuck, right? And the more that we can be honest with ourselves, the more that we can realize those things, the quicker we move past those obstacles into freedom and expansion. And then things really shift. December 5th, the moon forms in opposition to Mars again, and we have a Sun-Mercury cazimi in Sagittarius. So a cazimi is a word taken from Arabic astrology. They were some of the originators of astrology that we still use today. And cazimi is a word that means in the flame or in the heart of the sun. So the sun is this big giant ball of fire, right? Plasma. And when Mercury, the tiny little planet, is orbiting the sun, and from our perspective, it passes in front of the sun, it's like it disappears. You can't even see it. And so that's what it means for a planet of any kind to be in Cazimi, is to kind of disappear in the fire of the sun. And this is an awesome opportunity to hit reset on all things Mercury, which is what we think, what we believe, what we say, because in the heart of the sun, in the heart of the Sagittarius sun, it is hopeful, inspired, focused on the ideal outcome, willing to grow, willing to step outside of our comfort zone. If we're willing to let that fire of love and faith and hope burn up the negativity, burn up the obstacles and the anchors we have to the past, that is how we can hit reset on our headspace, on our awareness and perspective. And that's how we can really make the most out of Mercury retrograde right now. And then Saturday, December 7th, Venus moves into Aquarius. Venus being in Capricorn for the last couple of weeks is not an influence that you are likely to notice. Venus in Capricorn simply means that we will experience the most abundance and lucrative opportunities when we are working within the system, when we are engaging with that which already exists, that which is well established. But when Venus moves into Aquarius on December 7th, that is the entrepreneur, the adventurer, the inventor. Aquarius is associated with technology, doing things differently, aliens, spirituality, like all kinds of really cool transcendental stuff. So when Venus moves into Aquarius, that's an influence you are more likely to notice. But what's interesting is that Venus is associated with our love language. And when Venus is in Aquarius, our love language is distance, it's space. It says, I love you enough, I trust you enough to give you space and not obsessively cling and attach to you. I love you enough to set you free. And so within the context of relationships, if you are in a relationship, when Venus starts moving through Aquarius in the second week of December, you may find that you are more comfortable with breathing room in your relationships. And that could be, it doesn't have to be a partner. It could be a bestie. It could be a roommate, anything like that. When Venus moves into Aquarius, it's going to give a little high five to Pluto. And when Venus joins Pluto, it brings sweetness to our shadow work. So all in all, especially with the sun forming in opposition to Jupiter also on the same day, these are profoundly amazing opportunities to shake things up, to get out of a rut, to give yourself the ticket to freedom instead of expecting anybody else to help you with it. Personal empowerment and the realization of where, when, how, why your obstacles exist. These are the keys to freedom. So that is my collective overview for everyone. I do have timestamps below for the detailed horoscopes for all 12 zodiac signs. If you know your rising sign, I would encourage you to watch that one first, and then maybe even follow up with your sun sign for extra intuition and input and insight. If you don't know your rising sign, that's totally fine. Just look up the video for your sun sign and you're gonna get lots out of it. So thank you for being here, and I will see you at your horoscope. Aries sun and Aries rising, welcome to your horoscopes. We've got a lot to talk about. There's definitely big changes in the air because Mercury is about to go retrograde on Monday, that's tomorrow, and Mars goes retrograde on December 6th. Mercury, we all know about Mercury retrograde. It is associated with miscommunications, but Mars retrograde, that's a little bit less often. It doesn't happen as much as Mercury retrograde. And so we tend to kind of forget how influential Mars retrograde can be. Now, for you guys, as an Aries sun or an Aries rising, Mars is a very important planet to you because Mars is the planetary ruler for the zodiac sign Aries. So what that means is that you guys of all zodiac signs are going to be the most affected by Mars retrograde. And it will be retrograde from December 6th all the way till February 23rd of next year. Not messing around. So Mars is all about action. It's go time. It wants to be propelled in a very particular and specific direction. And when Mars goes retrograde, it feels like for every step forwards we take, we're taking 2, 3, 4, 5 backwards. So I love to be able to give people a heads up, because if you have anything that you're trying to get on the go, if you're trying to take action, if you're trying to get a project or anything else rolling, be prepared to feel like things aren't happening. Be prepared to feel like there are either insurmountable obstacles or delays. Especially this is associated with delays. Mars is in your 5th house right now. And so the influence of Mars being in your 5th house is action taken along the lines of either doing something for your kids or doing something for your inner child. Mars is currently in Leo, and Leo is a good time party person. Leo is associated with the lion. It is proud, it is performative, it is really kind of an energy unto itself, very main character energy. And so with Mars in Leo, you may find that any main character efforts that you're taking right now seem to either be blocked, held back, or delayed. This can also extend into creative ventures if you're trying to do anything creative, if you're trying to promote yourself, if you're trying to have kids, if you're trying to do anything along the lines of pursuing pleasure or connecting with someone romantically. You may find that it's just not happening over the next couple of months, but I want to make it really clear, it doesn't mean it's not happening at all. It's all about rethinking your approach, rethinking the methodology through which you are hoping to accomplish these goals. Anything that you already had planned, anything that you already had on the go may feel as though it's simply just being slowed down a little bit. But anything that you start, anything that you initiate during this retrograde period is going to experience far more of a delay or obstacle type effect. Sometimes when we start something before the retrograde, it's fine, only a little bit affected, but anything that we start within a retrograde period is going to be the most gong show of it all, right? So let's start with Mercury retrograde, because that starts on Monday. Mercury is all about what we think, what we say, what we write down, and what we agree to. And you may find that a lot of what you have to agree to is other people's perspectives, other people's ideas. With Mercury being in your 9th house, when it goes retrograde, you're going to be rethinking freedom. You're going to be rethinking your plans for the future. For some people, it might be rethinking the higher education that you want to get. It could be rethinking travel plans. It could be an experience of travel plans being delayed, or connections not being made, or something like that. Mercury retrograde is going to be in effect from November 25th to December 15th. That's only 20 days, and so it is a shorter period. But if you are hoping to make any plans in the realm of travel or education, that's going to be the most affected by Mercury retrograde. And again, it's not a full stop, it's not an end of the story, but what I just want to share is that you can expect to have something unexpected come up. And very specifically, like, it could be the kind of thing where maybe you didn't read the fine print. Maybe there's extra baggage fees. Maybe there's extra taxes. Maybe there's some sort of a clause that your tickets are not refundable or something like that. So those are specifically for travel. But outside of our life experience, the 9th house, where Mercury is right now for you guys, is also associated with what we believe. And what we believe is either going to open doors or close them. Either we believe that we are capable of change and then boom, those pathways open up, or we believe, nope, change is not possible. Dead end road, right? So if you can change your mind, you can change your life. And that's going to be one of the biggest themes with Mercury retrograde in your 9th house for the next couple of weeks, is noticing where and when your belief systems, what you think, what you say, what you believe, where and when that is closing a door versus opening one. And because Mercury is in the sign of Sagittarius, the ideal is freedom, whether it be freedom of movement, freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of choice, any of those things. And so if you're noticing that you don't have that freedom, then the 2-3 week period of Mercury being retrograde is going to be a fantastic opportunity to rediscover freedom, to rethink your approach, to reestablish any kind of thoughts, beliefs, or agreements in that context. Now, Mercury is opposite Jupiter right now. Jupiter is the planetary ruler for Sagittarius, where Mercury happens to be hanging out. So there's a double influence right now of something in our lives showing us where it is that we are potentially getting in our own way, or where it is that our belief systems or our perspectives are closing doors instead of opening them. So it's not going to be this like crazy hidden mystery. It's going to be the kind of thing where the answer's kind of been in front of you the whole time, but you might only just now come to realize it. You might only just now have the opportunity to pause and reflect and see it. So as much as you can stay open, as much as you can approach with curiosity, you'll get through this just fine. But like I said, specifically be mindful of travel plans. Please read the fine print when it comes to agreements, contracts, whether it be buying a ticket for traveling or signing up for higher education or classes or anything like that. Read the fine print. You may find that there are delays, or you may find that there are hidden fees or hidden agreements that you didn't see the first time. The new moon in Sagittarius on, I should have made this really big, because now that I don't have my glasses on, I didn't like how my glasses create reflection, but I should be wearing my glasses. New moon in Sagittarius, December 1st, that is a Sunday, it's a week from today, is going to be an awesome opportunity to take all of the information that becomes apparent over the next 7 days. Next Sunday, you're going to have a sense of, I get it. I understand. I know what I need to do. Let's hit reset in a way that opens doors or elevates hope or expands my possibilities and my potential, right? If you find that anything you think, believe, or say is causing you to feel more stuck, then that means you're going backwards, and I would encourage you to kind of do a 180 when it comes to your approach. In the second week of these horoscopes, which is going to be the first week of December, that's when Mars goes retrograde. Mars goes retrograde on December 6th. And because that's your planetary ruler, you guys are going to feel it the most. You may feel as though your own personal energy level is just dropped right down. You might find that you've lost motivation, lost inspiration, anything like that. But because Mars is going to be retrograde in Leo, that means that self-care is going to be the antidote. You might realize that you've just been giving it your all for everybody else, and then you come home and there's nothing left for you. That's going to be the clue that you need to pay attention to. So when Mars goes retrograde, the sun is going to be forming a really supportive angle. So that's where it's so important across the board to notice where and when you feel like you're experiencing obstacles, and then take a step back and reassess your approach, reassess the energy that you're putting into it. Because like I said, none of this is going to be a dead end. It's just going to be a detour. It's going to be a little bit of a side quest so that you can get more specific, more clear, more efficient, and more productive with whatever it is that you're trying to do or manifest. And then Mercury retrograde does form a square to Saturn. It could be like a fleeting depression right around December 6th. Right at the same time Mars goes retrograde, you may feel discouraged. You may feel depressed. You may feel as though there's some sort of a dark cloud hanging around you. And I would strongly encourage you to take physical activity to shake it off. Whatever's within your physical abilities, whether it just be squeezing and releasing, or doing the hokey pokey, or full-on dance party in your kitchen. But one of the most important things we can do is remember that we are a complete system. We are not just physical. We're not just mental. We are also spiritual and emotional. So looking at ourselves as a complete holistic system, and any adaptations that we take, any ways in which we modify our output or our approach, it's really important to remember the bigger picture and not get too locked in on details. There's tons of time to adjust your sails. There's tons of time to recalibrate your compass and align yourself with the goals and the desires that you have in mind. And then Venus joins Pluto in Aquarius on December 7th, which is a Saturday. Venus moves into Aquarius. And for you guys, that's going to be your 11th house, which means that there's some sort of opportunity that's going to open up for you. And it's going to be available for about a 3-week period while Venus is moving through Aquarius. It's all going to be about using your power or your privilege to make a difference out in the world, whether it be your local community or maybe something a little bit bigger. Venus conjoined Pluto is all about using your love to hold power, using your compassion to control or change things in a way that is ultimately beneficial and ultimately for the highest good. So that's where in the 11th house, we would see an opportunity to use your power, your voice, your privilege in order to help somebody who doesn't have power, voice, or a privilege. So if you are a male and you decide to start advocating for women who are very quickly losing their rights, that would be a perfect way to utilize this opportunity. If you were to start working at a food bank, a soup kitchen, any kind of charitable or humanitarian work, that would be an amazing way to use this influence. And often it is in helping other people that we come to realize how well we are living. Right? It's really easy to get stuck in how much we're struggling, but when we have an opportunity to engage in service to others, it's an amazing opportunity to realize how good we have it, right? So I'm wishing you guys all the very best. Like I said, it's just a little bit of a heads up. We're kind of entering into a little bit of a detour side quest season, but not all is lost. It's just about pulling back, reassessing, recalibrating, and getting ready to be a little bit more efficient and focused in our approach. So I hope you guys enjoyed your horoscopes. If you did, I do have a little tip jar below if you feel inspired and able to contribute. It's always very appreciated. These are a labor of love. I wish you guys all the very best. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in 2 weeks when we have a full moon. Mwah! Bye! Taurus Sun and Taurus Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. We have a lot going on, and the biggest announcement of all is that we have 2 very major planets about to go retrograde. Mercury is going retrograde on Monday, and Mars goes retrograde on December 6th. So we're covering a 2-week period that does involve a new moon in Sagittarius as well. And honestly, even if it feels like things are just really screwy or like you're just living a gong show right now, ultimately everything that's happening, everything that's changing and shifting or being blocked or being delayed, it's all giving us an opportunity to recalibrate the direction we're in. Look at a compass, look at a map, metaphorically, of course, and see if you're headed in the direction that you want to be. We're in the middle of Sagittarius season, and Sagittarius is all about focusing on our goals and throwing ourselves in a hopeful, positive direction with faith in ourselves, with wind in our sails, and a fire in our belly. So what we have going on is that Mercury is about to go retrograde on Monday. And that's where we have this opportunity to rethink or rediscover hope, to get curious. And instead of allowing our headspace to get locked into something that might actually be closing more doors than opening them, it's an opportunity to rethink, okay, what are my priorities and what is my ultimate goal? I'm just going to cross off Aries because I forgot to do that and I don't want to confuse myself. Mercury is going to go retrograde in your 8th house. The 8th house, it has got a lot of meaning. It is associated with Scorpio. It is life, death, rebirth, taxes, inheritances, generational patterns. It can be crisis. It can be connecting with the spirit world. There's a lot going on in the 8th house, right? Now, when Mercury, this is a very specific influence that I've come to learn is like really profound. When Mercury is moving through your 8th house, there is power behind your words. There is power behind your thoughts. And when I do birth charts for clients that have Mercury in their 8th house, you know what they tell me all the time? They say, I thought about something and it came true. I said something and it came true. And then the other part is, I wish I hadn't said that. I wish I hadn't thought that. This is why I'm telling you this. When Mercury is moving through your 8th house, there is so much power behind your words and your thoughts that it is profoundly important to watch your words. Be careful what you think, be careful what you say, and more importantly, be careful what you wish for. Because the power and the potential that exists with Mercury in your 8th house is like wild. It's incredibly potent. And when Mercury goes retrograde on Monday, you may be rethinking what it was that you said, what it was that you thought, what it was that you wished for. So during this time, just remind yourself there's power behind words. You know, when we're writing, it's called spelling, like a magic spell, right? There is so much power behind your words, your thoughts, your intentions, and your wishes. And with great power comes great responsibility. So whether you're a Taurus sun or a Taurus rising, I would strongly encourage you to really keep your thoughts and your words in check. Not only what you kind of think and say to yourself, but also what you say out loud to other people. One of the potential influences of Mercury retrograde in your 8th house is engaging in gossip, and then within less than 24 hours, having it circle around the whole community and come back to you in a way that stings. Anything you say can and will be used against you, right? That's kind of the energy of this experience for you guys. But the other side of it is, if you want to manifest something, there's power. If you want to wish for something, ooh, there's power. But with Mercury being retrograde for the next 20 days, you want to rethink what your ultimate goals are, and you want to readjust the energy with which you are approaching this to make sure that you are aligned with the highest karmic good. This is not an opportunity to mess around. I would not mess with karma with this influence, that's for sure. But you can use this to vastly improve yourself, your situation, or your circumstances. Now, Mercury is opposite Jupiter right now. Jupiter represents good luck. It represents expansive possibilities and infinite potential. And with Jupiter occupying your 2nd house of money, resources, and values, this is a fantastic opportunity for you to manifest something huge. But like I said, be careful what you wish for. And the other part of it is get really, really clear on the language that you use. If you're using a magical manifestation wish list, I do have videos about that in my YouTube library. It's an amazing manifestation technique, but it's a great opportunity because you're writing a list. It's a great opportunity to get really clear and spend a few days or a week really thinking about it and really thinking about, okay, how am I phrasing this? What are the words that I'm using? What is the potential outcome associated with how I put this together, right? So get really clear, think 50 times before you speak, right? All that good stuff. But there's amazing potential for manifesting something, especially in the physical realm and especially in regards to money right now. And then on December 1st, we have a new moon in Sagittarius. So that's going to activate your 8th house. That's an opportunity to have a fresh start or a new beginning when it comes to anything that the 8th house represents. So it might be karmic patterns. It might be some sort of generational curse. It might be your relationship with money, specifically debt or taxes. It also could be the energy exchanges that you have with the people that are close to you, and just kind of rethinking, is this helping me live my best life, or is this sucking me dry and dragging me down, right? So definitely the biggest thing over the next week is to go inwards and really practice observing and practice noticing. Don't skim over details. Don't be sloppy. This is a time to get really specific, but if you're specific, this could really pay off for you amazingly well. And then moving into the second week of these horoscopes, the first week of December, Mars goes retrograde on December 6th, and when it does, it is going to be supported by the sun. So there's a sense that anything right now that gets delayed or pushed back, any obstacles we experience as far as the action that we want to take, it is in our highest good. So don't push through, don't bulldoze. If you experience a pause or a delay or an obstacle, stop and reflect. Stop and look at everything in front of you and everything inside of you and ask, is this in my highest good? Is this actually a good thing? Because with the energy right now, it's kind of like having a first impression of thinking, oh, this is brutal, oh, this is a curse or whatever. But then if you think about it, if you reflect on it, you're going to realize it was a blessing in disguise. Mercury retrograde is going to form a square to Saturn. So if you struggle to see yourself as an individual who is capable of infinite growth and change, if you have a hard time seeing possibilities, then that is really going to be amplified on December 6th when Mercury forms a square to Saturn. It's going to be a fleeting depression for everyone. But one of the biggest things that you in particular might struggle with is seeking meaning, seeking salvation, seeking freedom, and struggling with a perspective in which you see yourself as stuck or a prisoner. So the biggest thing with all this stuff happening with Mercury retrograde forming in opposition to Jupiter and Mars going retrograde, the biggest thing is to really pay attention to when and where your thoughts are either closing doors or opening them. If you can simplify your experience and just ask yourself, keep asking yourself, is this opening possibilities or is this limiting possibilities? That's going to give you the answers that you need. And then on December 7th, Venus, which brings sweetness to all that it touches, Venus joins Pluto in Aquarius. For you guys, that's your 10th house. Huge focus on manifesting money right now. Huge focus on manifesting resources or a home or a career or a raise or a promotion or any of those things. So there's a lot of really awesome potential and possibilities opening up for you guys. And when Venus spends the next few weeks in your 10th house, expect for there to be more sweetness in your career and long-term goals. So I hope that these resonated. I hope that this was helpful. I do have a tip jar below if you feel inspired and you're able. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in 2 weeks as we approach the full moon. Mwah! Bye. Gemini Sun and Gemini Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. We've got a lot going on. We've got 2 major planets about to go retrograde, but I'm here to tell you all about it. It's not all bad. It's just an opportunity to pause and reflect. Here's the thing though, with Mercury going retrograde tomorrow, Mercury is your planetary ruler. Whether you're a Gemini Sun or a Gemini Rising, Gemini is linked to Mercury. And when Mercury goes retrograde, it is going to affect you guys more than any other zodiac sign. Well, you and Virgo, because Geminis and Virgos are both ruled by Mercury. And anytime your ruling planet goes retrograde, you may feel as though it's kind of an everything in your life goes retrograde. Now, with Mercury going retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius, for you guys, that's your 7th house of partnerships and one-on-one interactions. And when I say partnerships, it could be a bestie, it could be a roommate, it could be a boss or a coworker. It could also be a lover or a partner. But the 7th house is about those one-on-one interactions. And with Mercury going retrograde in your 7th house, the way in which it is going to affect you the most is feeling as though you just have nonstop misunderstandings with the people closest to you in your life. So when in doubt, ask for clarity. One of the biggest risks with this placement is making assumptions, and then based on an assumption, going off the rails, making a decision, or just spinning out inside of our headspace, right? So if you feel as though you are not understanding someone, or if you feel as though someone else is not understanding you, take the time, slow down, Find that clarity. Find different words to explain what it is that you're hoping for. And if you feel the tendency, we all do this, if we feel the tendency to jump to conclusions or get really offended or upset, one of the best things we can do is repeat back to someone what it is we heard and then ask for clarity. So saying, what I'm hearing from you is it sounds like you believe this and you want to do this. Is that correct? Did I get that correct? And what that does as we repeat it back is not only does it give us a couple of seconds to cool down instead of freaking out, but it also gives the other person a couple of seconds to say, actually, no, that's not what I meant at all. Let me explain, right? So don't jump to conclusions. Please reach for clarity, work for clarity, and just kind of take everything with a grain of salt, right? Like Mercury retrograde lasts for 20 days. So for approximately 3 weeks, this is going to be the theme. And for you guys, it's going to be very specifically focused on those one-on-one interactions. But the other piece of that is that when Mercury is in Sagittarius, as it is right now, it is associated with like having no filter, just blurting something out, either spoiling a surprise or revealing a secret or saying something that is profoundly rude or not thought out. So it could be you going through this, it could be somebody close to you going through this. I just want you to be prepared. Don't take things too personally. When in doubt, ask for clarity, and this too shall pass, right? Now, Mercury is opposite your zodiac sign, but Jupiter is hanging out in your zodiac sign. Jupiter is a very lucky, very beneficial planet that opens up limitless possibilities. And what we're seeing here is an opportunity for you to expand your self-awareness, your capacity, especially in the context of conversations and interactions. If you're typically the type of person to jump to conclusions or get triggered and just shut down or get triggered and fight, this is an opportunity for you to shift how it is you respond, to change the words that you use within the context of conversations, to practice de-escalation techniques, to practice active listening. It will feel as though you're stretching outside of your comfort zone, but it is a fantastic growth opportunity. And if you put the effort in, you're going to be so grateful that you did. I promise. And then moving into December, we're moving into December pretty quick. It's pretty wild to think that we're at the last month of 2024. I don't know how the heck that happened. But December 6th, we have a whole cluster of planetary influences. The major one is that Mars is going to go retrograde. And for you guys, it's Mars retrograde in your third house of, guess what? Communication. We definitely have a very clear theme happening here. With Mars retrograde in your third house, here's the thing. Mars wants to take action. The third house is communication. You are going to experience some form of feeling either misunderstood, misinterpreted, triggered, whatever it is. And your tendency, your quick gut reaction is going to be you're going to want to tell somebody how you feel, or lay it all down, or put somebody in their place, or have that last word. Every single one of those choices comes from a place of ego. With Mars being retrograde in Leo, every single one of us is encouraged to check our ego at the door. And so in the context of Mercury retrograde, in the context of anything that happens for you, if you notice your ego being like, let me tell you something, bring it back in. Because I promise you it's not going to go anywhere good, right? We are all given an opportunity to rethink our approach, to rethink our perspective, to rethink any desire that we have to act from a place of ego, and to reassess whether or not those choices, those behaviors, those tendencies are really getting us where we want to be. It's not going to help us live our best lives, right? And sometimes we can justify these things, be like, well, that person needed to hear it, or I needed to do. No, you didn't. You could have walked away. let people think whatever they want to think, right? Oh man, I'm in my mid 40s, and the older I get, the more I'm like, that's okay. You can think whatever you want to think. I don't need to argue with you. I don't need to prove anything to you, right? And oh boy, did it take me a really long time of making a lot of mistakes before I got there, right? So I just want to tell you, you're not alone. I come by it honestly. Every single human goes through this, right? But that's the theme for your zodiac sign this week. Mercury retrograde is going to form a challenging square to Saturn. Oh yeah, I wanted to circle that because I keep losing it. There we go. Mercury retrograde forms a square to Saturn. It's going to be like a fleeting depression around Friday, December 6th. You may feel stymied. You may feel like you are up against insurmountable obstacles. But let me promise you, where there's a will, there's a way. Not all is lost, although sometimes it feels like that, right? So on or around December 6th, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel like you've just hit your limit, take time for yourself. Do something nice for yourself. Make a blanket fort. You know what I mean? But definitely across the board, don't get in it with other people. It's not going to go anywhere good. And then December 7th, Venus moves into Aquarius, which is actually a really lovely influence. You guys are an air sign. Aquarius is an air sign. So when Venus moves into Aquarius, it's going to have a beautiful, softening, beneficial influence on any air sign, yourself included. It is going to move into your 9th house, and it's going to join Pluto, reminding you of the power of compassion, the power of silence, the power of letting people believe whatever they want to believe and just let that shit go. Inner peace comes from not having anchors. Inner peace comes from not fighting a million useless battles, right? And if upon reflection you come to realize that there's a lot of battles being fought in here or out here, that's your clue. That's your clue that your life would be a lot more peaceful if you just let it go, right? So it might be a really challenging couple of weeks for you guys, but if you dampen that tendency to react and just observe instead of absorbing, you'll get through this no problem. This too shall pass, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed your horoscopes. I hope that resonated and that felt helpful. If you feel inspired and able, I do have a little tip jar below. All donations are very gratefully accepted, but definitely optional, not required. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys have a magical couple of weeks, and I will see you in 2 weeks as we approach the full moon. Mwah. Bye. Cancer Sun and Cancer Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. We're definitely gearing up for some change, for some obstacles, for a little bit of chaos, because we have 2 major planets about to go retrograde. Mercury goes retrograde on Monday, November 25th, and Mars goes retrograde on December 6th. We all know about Mercury retrograde, miscommunications, missed emails, all that kind of stuff. It's old news, right? But what we don't see very often is Mars going retrograde. And Mars is the planet of action. So when Mars goes retrograde, it's like feeling like for every step forwards, we take 5 backwards. Expect the unexpected. Expect delays. Expect to feel like you're not moving anywhere fast. But that's okay. It gives us an opportunity to recalibrate and reassess where our energy is going to be most efficient and most effective. The best way that we can use the astrological influences over the next couple of weeks is to shift into a place of being hopeful, adaptable, curious, and patience. Lots of patience. So Monday, November 25th, Mercury goes retrograde, and for you guys, it's going to be in your 6th house of health, daily routines, and work. So your sign in particular, whether you're a Cancer Sun or a Cancer Rising, you're going to notice Mercury retrograde the most in your daily activities. So it could be things like the person you hired to walk your dog doesn't show up, or a client you were supposed to meet with got the day wrong or got the time wrong, or maybe you got the day or the time wrong. It is going to be little annoying things on a day-to-day basis, but not huge things. The sixth house, it is associated with daily routines, especially like your day job, but it is ruled by Virgo. So there's also a focus on physical health and mental health and the decisions or daily habits that either lead to a healthy lifestyle or take away from that healthy lifestyle. So with Mercury going retrograde, we are invited to rethink. And when Mercury is retrograde in your sixth house, you are encouraged to rethink your healthy choices, your daily habits. And when it comes to anything that you're doing on a daily basis, especially in the context of work, just slow down. If you have to send an email, read through it like 3 times before you hit send, and make sure that you have the correct address before you send it, right? If you have to make a phone call, triple check that number, or you know what I mean? For you guys, it is going to feel a lot like a traditional Mercury retrograde as far as just little annoying things happening on a daily basis. But like I said, nothing too huge. Mercury is forming an opposition to Jupiter. And Jupiter is currently in your 12th house, offering an opportunity to switch things up, be a little bit more spontaneous, or maybe even a little bit more hopeful when it comes to 12th house themes. Now, the 12th house is that which is hidden. It could be your dreams, it could be your subconscious, it could be your imagination, it could be your connection to spirit. But basically it is intangible, it's invisible, it's conceptual. And with Jupiter being in your 12th house, you are expanding your consciousness. So the things that come up with Mercury retrograde are going to challenge your consciousness expansion mission, right? I'll give you an example from my personal life. Just before the American elections, I had achieved a huge breakthrough when it came to the battles that I was fighting inside of my head, and resentment and anger and frustration towards other people or situations that I just couldn't seem to shake. And I had this incredible meditation, life-changing. I don't know what it was about it, but I made these amazing breakthroughs. And one of the breakthroughs was being able to lock into compassion. So I don't like the word forgiveness, especially for those of us who have been through trauma. Forgiveness feels sticky. But compassion allowed me to unlock my headspace and achieve a level of healing that I've been working really hard towards for a very long time. Compassion for all beings looks like keeping boundaries, but also instead of fighting with someone inside of my head, just going, wow, I have compassion for you. You are creating some gnarly karma. It must be miserable to be you. I'm going to keep those boundaries, but I'm not going to waste my time being angry. I don't need to be, right? Because I have those boundaries. I'm safe now. So compassion for all beings allowed me to achieve this incredible peace. And then what happened? The American election. And I found myself going, how can I have compassion for all beings when people who are living in a place of hate are like, right? So the reason I'm sharing this with you is because Mercury retrograde in your 6th house, opposing Jupiter in your 12th house, means that something or many somethings in your day-to-day life are going to challenge the healing, the hope, and the spirituality, the spiritual growth that you're doing up here. You know, you might come in like compassion for all beings and then go, that's what Mercury retrograde is going to feel like for you guys, okay? So just be prepared and just remember that every guru has to come down off the mountain. You know, it's easy to be a guru at the top of the mountain. It's easy to feel peaceful. It's easy to have compassion for all beings when you're isolated. But the true test comes when you have to engage in day-to-day activity and feel challenged on a regular basis to hold that peace and compassion, right? We're humans, right? So yeah, just sharing that. I hope I gave you a laugh. And I hope that moving forwards over the next couple of weeks, you're able to laugh your own way through any challenging and frustrating WTF kind of experiences that you have, right? So that's what's going on. And then we have a new moon in Sagittarius on December 1st. The new moon in Sagittarius is going to be in your 6th house. We do see respite. We do see hope. We do see a glimmer of, the silver lining around the new moon. It is an opportunity to be able to shake off any of those frustrations, any of that negativity, to laugh instead of cry, and to rediscover that hope, to rediscover that peace or that compassion, whatever it is that you've been working so hard to cultivate, right? And then we're moving into December. Pretty wild to think that we're at the end of 2024. I don't know how that happened. So we talked about Mercury retrograde. Now it's time to talk about Mars retrograde. Mars is the planet of action. Mars just wants it to be go time, right? And so when Mars is retrograde, obviously what that means is that action is delayed or held back, or you might find that you just keep hitting obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. Mars is going to be retrograde in your 2nd house. 2nd house is what we value, what we see as important in our lives. And by extension, the 2nd house is also what we manifest. It could be money, food, resources, anything along those lines, but basic necessities is kind of the key, and our core values is the key. So with Mars retrograde in your 2nd house, you may find it incredibly hard to access food or resources, or you may also find that you are going to withdraw your efforts if you don't feel like you are in the company of people who share the same values as you, or if you are dealing with any level of mistrust. So Mars retrograde is an opportunity to minimize, to reduce any extraneous expenses, go through whatever bank statements you have, and make sure that you're not still paying out for some random subscription, right? Reducing expenses so that during this short period you can live simply and not experience too much of a squeeze, right? Mars is going to be retrograde until February 23rd. December 6th to February 23rd. It is a 3-month period, just under 3 months. And because of the relationship between Mercury retrograde in your 6th house and Mars retrograde in your 2nd house, for some of you, there may be a very specific way that this manifests. For example, let's say you arrive at work, you check the schedule, and the manager forgot to put you on the schedule. And so there's been some sort of snafu, some sort of miscommunication. And as a result, you have a smaller paycheck or you can't afford something. Does that make sense? So there is going to be some sort of connection in between miscommunications, daily activities, including work, and then the subsequent effect that it has on money, resources, or trust. Trust is a huge piece, right? So with Mars retrograde, you are encouraged to withdraw your efforts if you are not being valued, paid, or appreciated. It also encourages you to stop trying if you are dealing with someone who is not trustworthy or does not align with your values. Just back off and forget about it, right? Same with Mercury retrograde. You are encouraged to stop trying to explain yourself or defend yourself or make peace if peace is not possible. So a lot of these just kind of encourage you to refocus your energy, your intentions, your love back on yourself and reassess what would be the most efficient and the most effective when it comes to accomplishing the goals that you have in mind. And then on December 7th, Venus moves into Aquarius, which is your 8th house. So there is going to be power behind your energy. There's going to be power behind your energy. There is going to be blessings coming in the form of spirit. And so this may manifest in the kind of way where at first you're really upset about something, but then you realize it was the best possible outcome or the best possible thing that could have happened. So temper any tendency to have an immediate reaction, especially if it's spicy, and just kind of observe your circumstances and ask yourself, okay, is this actually universe redirecting me towards something better? Or is this an opportunity to see someone or see a situation for what it really is? instead of wearing rose-colored glasses, right? But you'll get through it. It's no problem. We're here for each other, right? I hope you enjoyed your horoscopes. I hope they resonated, and I hope you found it to be helpful. If you were so inspired and able, I do have a little tip jar below. If you feel like contributing, every little bit helps. These are a labor of love. If not, that's totally fine. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you again in 2 weeks as we approach the full moon. Mwah! Bye. Okay. Leo Sun and Leo Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. I'm just chuckling because I'm like, there's a lot going on. One of the biggest things going on is that Mars, the planet of action and ego, is about to go retrograde in your sign. Therefore, the energy of Mars retrograde is going to affect you guys way more than Mercury retrograde, and I'll tell you why. Mercury retrograde is in your 5th house. 5th house is ruled by Leo. There is a double influence for sure. But with Mercury retrograde, it simply means that you may have either plans or communications in the context of pleasure or doing something for your kids or doing something nice for yourself or for a partner. The 5th house is all about pleasure, doing something for fun or creativity or, you know what I mean? Non-essential, but lovely. And when Mercury is retrograde in your 5th house, that means that any plans that you're making or any conversations that you're having around those subjects are going to either be affected by miscommunications or some sort of delay. So, for example, one way it could manifest is if you're a parent and you're signing your kids up for sports, for example, you might accidentally miss the deadline. Or the sport that your kids want to go in is full. And then you end up on a waiting list, kind of waiting with no clear direction and no clear answer. The other way it might manifest is if you're trying to do something nice for a partner, you're trying to plan a fun adventure or a date or something like that. But there's a miscommunication and you accidentally book the restaurant that they hate the most, or you know what I mean? Like, so it actually is a pretty mild influence. That's what I'm trying to say, is that Mercury retrograde this time is going to be a pretty mild influence for your zodiac sign in particular. And the other reason for that is that Mercury is retrograde in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a fire sign just like you. And so when something is happening in the same element as you, it's more of a beneficial delay rather than something that's life-shaking and crisis level, right? It's going to be an opportunity to rethink. And one of the ways that it could be end up being beneficial is, you know, if we go back to that parent booking a sport for their kid thing, you know, what if you go to book swimming and it's all booked full, or you miss the deadline and now you're on the waiting list? Well, a couple days later, your kid's like, actually, never mind, I hate swimming. I want to do soccer instead. So in the end, the delay is great. You didn't spend money on something that your kid was going to change their mind on. You know what I mean? Or so that's where if you temper any tendency to react or have a big emotion around something, take a step back and go, I wonder how this is going to turn out. I wonder if this could actually be a beneficial delay or a beneficial redirection. So keep your eyes out for hope. Keep your eyes out for blessings that are disguised as a curse or disguised as a problem that truly end up being like amazing that things turned out that way. So in that sense, Mercury retrograde is not going to be that bad for you guys at all. However, Mercury is opposite Jupiter right now. And the opposition between Mercury and Jupiter right now is activating your 5th and 11th houses. So the 5th house, like I said, it's about kids, it's about having fun, it's about creativity, it could be your inner child. And the 11th house is taking those same themes and bringing them out into the world. So with Jupiter in your 11th house, there are new opportunities and new possibilities when it comes to expanding your creativity or expanding the fun that you're having in a new way, trying something new, or, you know, back to the kid analogy, right? What if they want to try a new sport? Or maybe you're hanging out with a partner and you're trying to schedule date night and your favorite restaurant's all booked up. And at first you're super bummed, but then your partner's like, actually, I really wanted to try this new restaurant down the road. Perfect. Everything works out, right? So that's what it's going to look like if you are willing to move like water, if you're willing to shake off any delays or obstacles and then say, that's okay, what else could I do? Then it's going to be the best possible way to move through this influence with the least amount of trouble possible. Now, as we move into December, that's when Mars goes retrograde. December 6th, Mars goes retrograde, and it is currently in your zodiac sign. And over the next couple of months, because it's going to be retrograde until the end of February of next year, Mars is the planet of action. When it is retrograde, it is just that action is not easy to come by. So any action that you're taking when it comes to self-expression, because since Mars is in your sign, it's associated with you, who you are, how you dress, how you act. It could be associated with your personal appearance. It could be associated with the role that you play out in society or anything like that. So for example, if you were about to take action to self-promote or to get a tattoo or to get a haircut or something like that, right? Because the first house is associated with identity, when Mars is retrograde, whatever it is that you were going to do is either going to be delayed or pushed back, or you're going to need to adapt or compromise in some sort of way. And I had that happen when I was getting ready to get my tattoos done, and I had picked out this amazing tattoo artist. I was super excited. Well, then he went on parental leave, and I was like, well, damn it, I want a tattoo now. And in the end, I found someone who was even better. I love my tattoos. So that delay in the action that I wanted to take actually worked out for the best. So across the board, that's definitely the theme for you guys. The risk for you guys is to incorrectly perceive that you are personally being held back by unseen forces or by the universe, or you might even perceive yourself as unfairly targeted by other people, for example. So the risk is perceiving yourself as being like I said, unfairly targeted, I think is kind of the best words to use. The reason I say that is Mercury retrograde forms a square to Saturn. Any day of the week that represents a fleeting depression. But because Saturn is in your 8th house and Mercury retrograde is in your 5th house, what might happen for you is coming to some sort of a realization that whatever trouble you're experiencing right now has a common thread that goes back to your childhood. So for example, if you were going to do something nice for yourself and your reservation got canceled or your plans got delayed or something, you may incorrectly perceive yourself to be powerless, a victim. This stuff always happens to me. I never get to have any fun, right? So if we play the victim, if we get too lost in assigning meaning to meaningless things, that is the risk that would peak around December 6th. Because that fleeting depression holds potential for you to see significance in your troubles that most likely doesn't exist. Sometimes when we pick up on a repeating pattern, sometimes that's real and sometimes that's valid. But the risk of this particular context is to assign meaning to something that does not have meaning, right? So take deep breaths. Just remember, sometimes delays happen. This too shall pass. And quite often, our guides are redirecting us to something that's going to be way better, right? And then Venus moves into Aquarius, which is really cool because Aquarius is opposite Leo. So when Venus moves into Aquarius, it is going to be moving into your 7th house of one-on-one relationships, bringing sweetness, bringing connection, conversation, and potentially even trust to the connections that you have closest to you in your life. So with Venus moving into your 7th house, obviously the number one interpretation of that would be that your romantic relationships improve. But there is also the potential for your business and professional relationships to improve. It does hold an energy of people seeing you in a better light, people just loving you for some reason. They can't get enough, right? So it's a great opportunity to ask for a raise, to propose to your partner, to ask for a favor or anything like that. Because even if you feel like you're moving backwards, the energetic potential around how you make impressions or appear to other people is actually going to be exponentially improved. So yeah. That's what I've got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed your horoscopes. I hope that they resonated. If you feel inspired and you're able, I do have a little tip jar down below in the comments section. Just putting it out there. These are a labor of love, and so any amount donated, it's always very gratefully appreciated. I will see you guys in 2 weeks as we approach the full moon. Thank you so much for being here. I wish you guys all the very best, and I will see you next time. Mwah. Bye. Virgo Sun and Virgo Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. Your planetary ruler Mercury is about to go retrograde, but we all know this is not a new thing. In fact, Mercury goes retrograde multiple times a year, usually about 3 times a year. And it's just by virtue of, like, you know, let's say I'm the sun and Mercury is going around the sun at like a ripping pace, right? And every now and then the Earth laps Mercury and goes a little bit faster. So it does look like Mercury's going retrograde, but it's not really. Obviously, planets don't go backwards. Virgos and Geminis are both ruled by Mercury. It is the planetary ruler. It's the most important planet for your zodiac sign. And as a result, when your planetary ruler goes backwards or appears to go backwards, you may feel as though something very core, very integral about yourself or your life is moving backwards. You're going to feel very directly affected by the experience. Now, because Mercury is currently in the sign of Sagittarius, that's activating your 4th house. The 4th house is at the very bottom of your chart. That's your roots, that's your family of origin, and the family home that you create as an adult. It is your emotional reserves. It is the foundation from which you thrive. So with Mercury affecting this core foundation of your life, you may feel as though everything's kind of thrown up in the air, but quite specifically, you may feel as though your emotions are in a state of flux. So with Mercury retrograde, it is associated with miscommunications or some sort of misunderstanding. But when Mercury is retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius, it's an opportunity to rediscover hope, to relight the flame inside of you, to re-spark yourself, right? And so being retrograde in your 4th house is actually an indication of, well, a couple different things. One of the potential for this, the potential that we can utilize to our advantage, is to withdraw our energy, conserve our energy, and re-stoke or re-inspire or refocus on your own emotional well-being. So it's like if you fly on an airplane, you know, when they do the safety announcement and they say, if you have kids, before you put on their air mask, put yours on first, right? Get oxygen to yourself first before trying to help other people. Because if you don't have oxygen, you're going to fall out and not be helpful to anyone, right? And the same goes for you when it comes to your capacity for service to others. Whether you're a Virgo sun or a Virgo rising, you thrive when you are in service to others. You thrive when you feel like you're doing something helpful. And The risk of that is that you will often go above and beyond for other people, but in the end feel depleted and have nothing left for yourself. So with Mercury retrograde in your 4th house, you're being invited over the next 3 weeks to rethink your own emotional health. Put that oxygen mask on yourself, my dear, right? Make sure that your reserves are topped up before giving yourself away to other people. So that's the biggest message. And you may find that over the next 3 weeks, you are a little bit less social, a little bit less interested in coming out of your shell or out of your home. You really just want to kind of hunker down, right? The second possible influence of Mercury retrograde in your 4th house is disagreements and misunderstandings within your home. That could be with a partner, a roommate, a child, a parent, whatever, whoever you live with, your dog, your cat, you might just start arguing. So when it comes to the traditional interpretation of Mercury retrograde, the highest potential for you guys is going to be with your closest loved ones, your family, or whoever it is that you live with. So in times of miscommunications or misunderstandings, do be mindful of any tendencies to just react. The best thing we can possibly do during this time is simply ask for clarity, because it's just like getting on a telephone and having like really bad reception. It's not so much that either party intended on miscommunication, it's just that something in the air contributed to it, right? So instead of taking things personally, just be like, hey, it sounded like you said this. Is that what you really meant? Right? Ask for clarity, and then if that is what they really meant, then you can freak out. No, I'm just kidding. No freaking out. So there is a huge focus on your emotional health, on your own reserves, on your energetic foundation. And if you look over that, if you pour that energy and that love and that time into yourself, then what is going to expand, what's going to grow and thrive and flourish is Jupiter in your 10th house, because Mercury is opposite Jupiter right now. So if you rethink those 4th house themes, if you rethink how can I look after myself, then what's going to happen is that Jupiter in the opposite part of your chart at the very top in your 10th house, Jupiter brings expansion, luck, possibilities, and hope. And in your 10th house is all of your long-term goals. So what you might find during this period is that you've been pushing and pushing and pushing and you got nothing left. You're burnt out. But by rethinking that, by refocusing on yourself, then those possibilities open up. Then you work really hard at work, or you can make your business succeed and thrive, right? But you can't achieve success if you haven't looked after yourself. And the more that you can understand how deeply interconnected those themes and those planets are, the more you can master the situation and come out unscathed. Now, as we move into December 1st, we have a new moon in Sagittarius. So that's going to activate your 4th house, and it's going to be a very hopeful, very positive, very optimistic reset for your emotional well-being. And when we move into December, Mars goes retrograde. So Mars is the planet of action. It is associated with ego, because sometimes when our action is blocked, we will react with ego. Now, with Mars being in your 12th house right now, you may be unconscious of how your ego is coming out through your actions. And when Mars goes retrograde from December 6th to February 23rd, so like a solid 3 months, just under that, you are going to be invited to rethink any ways in which you are acting unconsciously. Speaking off the cuff, being rude, being inconsiderate. I know as a Virgo or a Virgo rising, that's not usually how you roll. But it's really important if you have this assumption that I'm not rude, I'm always honorable. Nobody's perfect, ever. Not even me. Not even close, right? So the more that we can be humbly aware of how our actions or our choices are potentially affecting other people, then we can find the key to unlock any tricky situations that we're in. So it's going to be really important to pay attention to the action that you're taking, and whether or not it genuinely is coming from a humble or highly intentional place, right? Mercury retrograde forms a square to Saturn, fleeting depression around December 6th. You may feel most frustrated or disappointed in the people closest to you. A couple of different factors possibly contributing to that. If you do not open up with any vulnerability, then the people closest to you in your life don't know that you're having a hard time. They don't know that you need support. And I can wager a guess that most of them are not psychic and not able to intuitively sense what it is that you need, right? So if you find that the people closest to you in your life are not providing the emotional support that you need, please do consider that they just don't know that you need it. It's not necessarily for lack of trying or lack of wanting. It's simply lack of awareness. They just don't know that you need it, right? But it's also really important, you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? It is important to reach out and get that support when we need it, but we also can't completely put our emotional well-being in the hands of others. We have to take personal responsibility. So you may find over the next couple of weeks that achieving a healthy balance when it comes to looking after your needs, having healthy boundaries, and having healthy connections with other people, that's going to be the biggest focus over the next couple of weeks, couple months. But honestly, while Mercury is retrograde, it's an opportunity to really kind of get a clear idea of what's happening and why it's happening. And then that's only 3 weeks. And even though Mars retrograde is 3 months, the peak of figuring stuff out is going to happen right now. And then the next few months is just about putting it into practice. That's all. Integrating whatever it is that we learned. So not huge, big stuff. And then Venus moves into Aquarius, which is your 6th house. So do expect more work, more money, more opportunities, something within your day-to-day life, your daily activities, your day job is going to be more sweet, more abundant, more prosperous. So there are lots of really good things coming in, but yeah, don't be afraid to take time off. Don't be afraid to withdraw and look after yourself. These things need to happen sometimes, right? Yeah. So I do hope you enjoyed your horoscopes. Thank you so much for being here. If they resonated, if you loved them, I just want to let you know I have a tiny tip jar down in the comments section, down in the description box for anyone who's inspired and able to contribute. These are a labor of love, and any donation, no matter how big or how small, is always very gratefully appreciated. So thank you so much for being here. Good luck out there, and I will see you in 2 weeks as we approach the full moon. Mwah. Bye. Libra Sun and Libra Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. We've got a lot going on. We've got 2 major planets about to go retrograde, but it's not a huge deal. I'm here to help you get through it. We're in this together, right? First off, Mercury goes retrograde on Monday. Of course it's a Monday, because that's how Mercury retrogrades go, right? For the collective, because Mercury is retrograde in Sagittarius, the general themes are going to be around rediscovering hope, rediscovering possibility, re-sparking that flame inside of your heart, right? But for you guys in particular, whether you're a Libra Sun or a Libra Rising, it is going to take a much more traditional feel when it comes to Mercury retrograde. And what I mean by that is that when we think of Mercury retrograde, we think about missed phone calls. We think about emails going to the wrong person or little snafus like that, right? Because Mercury is going to be retrograde in your 3rd house. 3rd house is associated with Gemini. That's conversations, that's networking, that's communication, that's those emails, those phone calls, those business meetings, whatever it is. That's one of Mercury's kind of home places in the chart. So that's why it's going to have a very traditional Mercury retrograde kind of effect on you guys, but not so much other people. You may feel as though for some reason it's just your emails that get screwed up, but not everybody else. It's your phone calls that get missed, but not everybody else. And it's simply just by virtue of, you know, for every different zodiac sign, Mercury is going to be affecting a different aspect of their lives. You guys just happen to be the ones with communication the most directly affected. If you are a small business owner that is associated with the third house, that would be deeply affected, especially when it comes to bookings, clients, confirmation, advertising, things like that. So I would definitely encourage you, if that applies to you, I would encourage you to double check everything. If you're about to sign a contract, have someone else read it over too, to make sure that you didn't miss anything. If you're about to launch an advertising campaign, make sure that the pictures are right. Make sure that there's no typos or things like that, because this is going to be associated with those little tiny mistakes that end up being kind of glaring mistakes. You know what I mean? Like getting a tattoo that says no regrets. And Mercury retrograde is going to be opposite Jupiter. Mercury is in your third house of communication. Jupiter is in your ninth house of possibilities and belief systems. So it's definitely going to have a very traditional effect of specifically affecting communication and then by extension your beliefs. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say a client doesn't show up for a meeting or a session. Your belief system might lead you to a place of being like, WTF, this always happens for me. Why doesn't people take me seriously? I can't believe I got screwed over, right? There's going to be like a high potential for some really negative, really unhelpful thoughts that come out. But you know what it might be? You got the day wrong. It could be your mistake. It could be the kind of thing where maybe your client sent you an email earlier in the day saying, hey, I'm so sorry, I can't make it. Let's reschedule, right? But if you didn't see that email, then you're going to be sitting there going, what the heck? Why did they stand me up, right? So across the board, no matter what zodiac sign you are, we are all encouraged to not jump to conclusions. Ask for clarity. Send that extra confirmation email. Double check, triple check that you have things entered in on your calendar, that things are scheduled on the correct day, that everybody who's supposed to be there is aware that they're supposed to be there, right? And then on top of that, you know, expect some things to get screwed up. Oh well, as long as you're not a brain surgeon, it's fine. If you are a brain surgeon, be careful. Yeah, it's anything that happens as far as miscommunications is very likely to trigger some sort of deeply held belief system. And in that triggering, you're going to see what needs to be healed. If your automatic response is to think low of yourself or to automatically think the worst of other people, that's a bit of a red flag. And it's going to point you in the direction of something that needs to be healed or loved back into balance, right? It's all very useful information. So practice observing, just so that hopefully you don't end up drowning in whatever frustration you end up experiencing as a result. And then moving into December, holy smokes, we're already in December. December 6th, Mars goes retrograde. So when Mars goes retrograde, it is going to be affecting your 11th house of community and belonging. I forgot to say, I'm sorry, on December 1st, we have a new moon in Sagittarius. So anything that happens as far as snafus and stuff like that is going to lead you to, when the new moon happens on December 1st, you may decide to rewrite your policy. Like if you actually do have last minute cancellations, you might end up deciding, if you're a business owner, for example, you might end up deciding to implement a cancellation policy as a result of any frustrating things that you experience. That would be a very, very healthy way of responding to Mercury retrograde kind of snafus, right? An unhealthy way would just be to spin and not take any appropriate action, right? So the new moon in Sagittarius is an awesome opportunity to take whatever it is that happens and go, you know what? Let's make a plan for it. Let's make a contingency plan. Let's make a policy. Let's just implement on a regular basis a practice of not responding right away, writing something out, but then thinking about it, sleeping on it, double checking the grammar, double checking the words that we used, right? Whatever kind of policies or contingency plans you end up developing will be things that you keep with you for the rest of your life or your career. So that's where, if we can make every situation work for us, we can take frustrating experiences and go, okay, well, that sucked, but now I'm going to have a plan in place so that in the future, it doesn't affect me so deeply or so traumatically, right? And then, yeah, when Mars goes retrograde, sorry to jump ahead, on December 6th, Mars goes retrograde. Mars is action. So it's not just about communication getting messed up. It's also plans getting messed up, ideas, projects, things that you have on the go. If you have started something before Mercury and Mars go retrograde, then it will still happen, but it might be slowed down. It might be delayed. It might need extra edits or modifications, but it will still go. Alternatively, if there is a project or an idea or something big that you're trying to get on the go and you start it while Mercury and Mars are retrograde, that's not going to happen, or it's not going to happen very easily. And it's not necessarily a dead end, but it's like trying to go swimming in a dry lake. The potential's just not there. But if you wait, it will rain and eventually fill up, and then you can take the action. I hope that metaphor makes sense. So anything initiated within the retrograde period is just going to have the odds stacked completely against it. Not to say it's impossible, but it's going to be challenging, to say the least. So what you will find is that any obstacles, any frustrations you experience are going to simultaneously offer you an opportunity to plan ahead in the future, to develop some sort of response or protocol or policy or procedure, personally or professionally, in response to whatever it is you experience, that's going to help you be more efficient, more happy, more productive, more prosperous moving forwards. So it's all useful information. It's all useful information. You may have a fleeting depression around December 6th because Mercury does form a square to Saturn. Any day of the week that is associated with depression or heaviness or just discouraging thinking, but it will clear up shortly after. And then Venus moves into Aquarius and joins Pluto. Because Libras are an air sign, when Venus moves into Aquarius, which is another air sign, it's going to benefit you guys and Geminis and Aquarius the most. It's going to have a really positive, beneficial influence on your life. And because it's going to move into your 5th house of joy, pleasure, creativity, and simply having fun, there is definitely a silver lining on any clouds that might happen to come into your life right now. So no matter what comes up, just ask yourself, how can I make this work for me? And then you'll get through it, no problem. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed your horoscopes. I hope they resonated and that you found them to be helpful. If you feel inspired and if you're able, I do have a little tip jar link down below in the description box. Any donation is very gratefully accepted. These are a labor of love. And yes, I hope you guys have an amazing couple of weeks. Good luck out there, and I will see you in 2 weeks as we approach the full moon. Awesome. Mwah. I'll see you next time. Scorpio Sun and Scorpio Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. Mercury goes retrograde, Mars goes retrograde, but it's not all bad, I promise. Scorpios have a really cool planetary association. In ancient astrology or early astrology, Pluto hadn't been discovered yet. A lot of the outer planets hadn't been discovered. So originally, your sign, Scorpio, whether you're Scorpio Sun or Scorpio Rising, originally your planetary ruler was Mars. And then later Pluto was discovered. So the modern planetary ruler for Scorpio is Pluto. But Mars still holds deep significance for your zodiac sign. And the reason I bring that up is because on December 6th, Mars does go retrograde. And when Mars goes retrograde, any zodiac signs like Scorpios, but also Aries, are going to find that they are more directly affected than the rest of the zodiac signs out there. Mars is going to be retrograde in Leo, which for you guys is your 10th house. Mars is action, Leo is ego or identity, and the 10th house is career or long-term plans. If we connect the dots on those core themes, what that means is any action you are going to take as far as doing something for yourself, buying a house, launching a business, asking for a promotion or a raise, any of those like really big significant goals that we're going to directly either be connected to who you are or what you want, expect delays. Expect obstacles, expect something to either be put on hold, to be postponed, or you might find that you have to jump through extra hoops or complete extra prerequisites before you can make that ultimate final thing happen. You may have a personal reaction, feeling as though somebody has something out for you, or maybe somebody's against you, or you might even feel like, God, why can't I win? Why does this always happen to me? Why do I never get what I want? I want to encourage you to be mindful of any time that you have a tendency towards extreme language. And I don't mean extreme language like using bad words. I just mean using terms like always or never. Because 99% of the time, it's not black and white. It's not an always or never. It's a sometimes or a most of the time, right? But when we're upset, our brains and the words that we use tend to go towards a much more extreme or black and white or like always or never kind of mentality. So one of the things that's coming up for everyone is that if our plans, if our action is being held back or postponed or whatever it is, it's an opportunity to rethink, number one, is this in my best interest? Maybe I'm being held back because it's not my highest good. Maybe I don't need to spend that money, or maybe I don't need to go in that direction, whatever it is. But number one, ask yourself, is this in my best interest? Number two, what purpose could this delay possibly serve? Because we are all going to have a tendency to be like, WTF, I'm mad or disappointed that there's a delay or an obstacle, right? But if you pause and you think and you go, wait a minute, actually, maybe this is for the best. Maybe it means I have an opportunity to choose something different. Maybe it means I have an opportunity to save that money or save that energy. Or maybe it means I have an opportunity to redo my resume or redo my proposal for a raise or a promotion in a way where I'm actually asking for more. Maybe I should set the bar higher. So any obstacle, any delay, anything that comes up for you, I encourage you to just ask as many questions to yourself, to the universe, whatever, rather than jumping to conclusions, rather than having an emotional reaction. Because across the board, when I look at the collective astrological energy and the influence that it's going to have on all of us right now, the ultimate connecting theme that I see repeated in many different places right now, the ultimate connecting theme is that this is in our highest good, that whatever it is that's happening, it may suck right now, but it's going to lead to hope or curiosity or possibilities, or maybe just being more efficient, more productive, more focused. Everybody's going to have a different specific experience, but the general theme is it's for our own good, or it's for the highest good, or something like that. So I encourage you to ask more questions rather than jump to conclusions, especially because on Monday, Mercury goes retrograde. I talked about Mars first because it has such a direct influence on your zodiac sign, but tomorrow, Monday, Mercury goes retrograde. And of course, we all know that to be associated with snafus, miscommunications, misunderstandings, missed phone calls, whatever it is. But because Mercury is going to be retrograde in your second house, there's a very specific influence of it being most affecting purchases. The second house is about that which we manifest. It could be money, it could be resources. It is associated with what we value, what we prioritize, what we consider to be the most important. And when Mercury is retrograde in your second house, you may be thinking about buying something, and then any delay that comes up, you could be like, oh, that's a really good thing because it just went on sale. And now that I didn't buy it at that time, I can buy it for way cheaper. Wow, that was a blessing, right? Or you might be inspired to do some retail therapy. You go to the store and for some reason your card doesn't work. It should work, but it doesn't. And so you might be grumpy in the moment, but then you come home and remember, oh right, I didn't pay rent. I needed that money. So this is where I'm trying to encourage you that any obstacle, any frustration, any block that happens for you, whether it be permanent or just a temporary delay, take it as a blessing, because there is going to be some sort of hidden benefit or hidden opportunity to either make a different choice or do something in a way that aligns with your highest good much better than what you originally planned. So for Scorpio suns and Scorpio risings, there is a very direct, specific context of money, finances, purchases, and that sort of thing. Mercury is opposite Jupiter right now. Jupiter is in your 8th house, encouraging you to kind of think outside of the box or do things differently when it comes to some sort of repeating pattern in your life. Now, outside of the focus of 2nd and 8th houses being very, very associated with money, there is a subtext. The 2nd house is also about who we trust. And one of the things that might come up for some of you guys is wanting to take action, thinking that you can trust somebody, and then finding out actually your trust was misplaced. And so if that's the case, again, you are encouraged to kind of think about, oh, is this a repeating pattern? Do I trust too easily? Should I slow down before committing? Or should I slow down before opening up and oversharing and being really vulnerable? So whatever it is that happens for you, just consider any delay, any obstacle, it serves a higher purpose and it is in your highest good. And then we have a new moon in Sagittarius on December 1st, activating that 2nd house. So it's an opportunity for you to rethink what you value, what you spend your money on, or what it is that you're trying to manifest. And then moving into December 6th, that's when Mars goes retrograde. Like I said, it is in your 10th house. It's not a dead end. It's not a solid no or a stop sign, but it is going to be some sort of pullback or pushback when it comes to those really big goals or really big purchases that you're trying to make. But yeah, just wait for the wind to change and then you'll come back around. And then Venus moves into Aquarius. Venus brings sweetness, abundance, and trust to everything that it touches. It does do a little high five with your planetary ruler Pluto in the very early degrees of Aquarius on December 7th. And when it does, it's going to be activating your 4th house of emotions and all that is sacred to you, whether that be your home, your family, your heart space. So there's a lot of beautiful blessings coming in. There's a lot of really good stuff coming together for you. So all I would say is just, I would encourage you to not, if you come up against an obstacle or a delay, don't push, pause and reflect, because in the end, it's all going to make sense. So I hope you enjoyed your horoscopes. I hope that they resonated and that you found them to be helpful. I do have a little bit of a tip jar set up down below in the description box if you feel inspired and if you're able. These are a labor of love, so any donation, no matter how big or how small, is always very gratefully appreciated. And I'm excited to see you again in 2 weeks as we approach a full moon. We got some big energy coming through. So thank you so much for being here. Good luck out there, and I will see you next time. Mwah. Bye. Sagittarius sun and Sagittarius rising, welcome to your horoscopes. You guys are the star of the show this week. We have a new moon in Sagittarius coming up on December 1st. And even though there's a couple of retrogrades happening right now, you guys are going to be affected in a very beneficial way. And I'll tell you why. Mercury is going retrograde on Monday. And Sorry, my eye is leaking. Mercury is going retrograde on Monday, and even though it is associated with miscommunications and misunderstandings and things like that, when it is in your own home sign, whether you're a Sagittarius sun or Sagittarius rising, it does carry themes of personal identity. That could be what you wear or how you decorate yourself, but it could also be some sort of role that you play out there in the world, and the way in which other people see you. It's a very face value kind of thing. So here's what we're looking at. For Mercury retrograde to be happening in your sign, it could be an indication that maybe a makeover that you were going to get gets delayed, or maybe a tattoo that you were going to get, because again, we're looking at appearances. Maybe some sort of tattoo that you were going to get gets postponed. The other way that it could manifest for you is that you may find that your words don't come out quite right, because the first house is also about self-expression. And when Mercury is in Sagittarius, it does carry a bit of an energy of having like no filter, and just blurting things out. So you may find that the way in which you express yourself, either how you look, how you dress, or how you speak, that's what's going to be most directly affected. So the best way that you can kind of counteract this influence is to think before you speak, consider your audience, right? Tailor your expression and your energy according to the audience that you have and the company that you keep, and just be really, really, really mindful. There's a very high likelihood of people taking your words or taking something that you say completely the wrong way, and either being shocked or offended or put off by it, right? So you guys in particular are going to have to work really hard to temper or tame your expressions over the next couple of weeks, but it's not all bad. And what's going to be hard for you, though, is that with Mercury in your first house of self-expression, it is opposite Jupiter in your 7th house of partnerships. Here's what that might feel like. I'll break it down for you. You may feel restricted. You may feel like you have to follow certain rules, or people take you the wrong way, or you may feel like, why me? Why does it feel like I'm under a microscope? Why does it feel like I have to follow rules that other people don't? Because with Jupiter in your 7th house, that means in your one-on-one partnerships, that's when you look at other people, you're going to say, they look free. They look like they can say whatever they want and not experience consequences. Oh my goodness, excuse me. You know what I mean? So you may have a perception. It could be real, it could be imagined, I don't know. But you, with Mercury opposite Jupiter, activating the 1st and 7th houses, you're going to have some sort of ongoing experience or ongoing perception that you can't say anything without getting in trouble, but other people can say the craziest stuff and not experience any consequences at all. So you might feel quite resentful. You might feel bothered or irritated when a dynamic like that comes up. But there's a new moon in your sign, a new moon in Sagittarius on December 1st, and it's an opportunity to kind of hit reset when it comes to how you see yourself and whether or not you put much weight into how other people see you. One of the most amazing things about getting older is that it is profoundly liberating. I used to worry all the time what other people thought of me, and it made me a nervous wreck. But by the time I hit 40, I was like, oh, wow, I really don't care what anybody else thinks. I mean, to a certain extent, right? I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be honorable. I'm going to be a decent human being because those are my core values, right? But I'm not going to waste time worrying what other people think. I'm not going to waste time obsessing over my appearance or my expression, coming from a place of wanting to make other people feel happy. No, I'm going to take up space. I'm going to be my awesome self. Right? That is kind of the core experience that you guys can expect over the next few weeks, is that you're going to have a lot of really interesting, quite possibly double standards. exposed to you, you know, like how women are held to this ridiculous standard, but men can do whatever the heck that they want. It's infuriating, right? So whatever it is that you experience, you may have big emotional reactions, but if you can let those experiences and those emotions, if you can let those catalyze change or empower you to make a difference, that's going to be the healthiest way to utilize this experience. It will not be healthy to argue. It will not be healthy to get lost inside of your head in big emotions or attaching stories, anything like that. Your feelings are real. Your experience is real. But we want to make sure to make any situation, as much as possible, we want to make it work for us. How can I use this information? How can I use this experience to empower myself or empower other people moving forwards, so that there's less of a discrepancy when it comes to the standards held for myself versus other people, right? There is a risk of me versus them. There is a risk of seeing yourself as being singled out when it's not actually that way, right? So just be mindful not to attach meaning where there is none, and be mindful of any tendencies to play the victim, rather than empowering yourself, right? Yeah. But the new moon in your sign is an awesome opportunity to hit reset, refresh, see yourself as an amazing and, you know, incredible human being, to let go of insecurities, to let go of making other people feel happy, and just give yourself the gift of freedom. Freedom of thought, freedom of love, freedom of movement, and most importantly, the freedom that we achieve when we have peace of mind. Yeah. And then moving into December 6th, Mars moves retrograde. So Mars is the planet of action. It's currently in Leo. Leo's another fire sign, just like you guys. So Mars retrograde, even though it's going to be hard because it's going to feel like action is being pushed back, or every step forwards, we take 5 backwards. Expect delays, expect things to be postponed, expect obstacles. That's just the name of the game. But because it is in another fire sign like yours, those obstacles, those delays, any challenges that you go through are ultimately going to be helpful, right? Any problems or snafus you experience will give you useful information, where if you resolve those issues, if you close those loops, then you're not going to have that problem anymore. So that was useful information. You can make it work for you, right? Anytime that we are delayed, so Mars is in your 9th house. If you have plans to travel, if you have plans to move long distance, if you have plans to go back to school or pursue an education, those would be specifically the things that would be most affected by Mars retrograde. It could be the kind of thing where you applied to get into school, but then you find out there's a waiting list. So then you're just kind of indefinitely put on hold and waiting. Mars will be retrograde until February 23rd of next year. It is a long time. So if you experience delays, if you experience something being postponed or put off, very likely the next opportunity to make it happen won't be until March of next year. So just be patient with the process and see if you can find a way to make it work for you. Maybe you can save money. Maybe you can get a refund. Maybe you changed your mind about what you wanted to do anyway, right? There's always going to be a bright side. We're in Sagittarius season, and that is definitely the theme. Look for the bright side. Look for the hope. Look for the possibilities, because I swear it's not all bad, even when it feels like it is, right? And then Venus moves into Aquarius. Venus joins Pluto, does a little high five in the beginning degrees of Aquarius. And for you guys, that's going to be your 3rd house. So there's a lot of potential and possibilities opening up if you are a small business owner. With Venus moving into your 3rd house, it would be especially beneficial for anyone who owns a small business or is self-employed. It's also going to bring a lot of sweetness to your social connections as well. Personal or professional connections, your inner circle, your siblings, your besties, your crew, right? Expect lots of social invitations, expect lots of opportunities to talk on the phone or get connected and stuff like that. Very brisk, very quick pace for sure. The one thing that you need to do is make sure that you don't overextend yourself. Make sure that you don't push yourself to the point of exhaustion, right? If something's not happening, if it feels like you're experiencing delays, don't drive yourself crazy trying to fix it. Find something else to do, right? And then come back around. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed your horoscopes. I hope you found them helpful. I hope they resonated. If you feel so inspired, if you're able to, I do have a little bit of a tip jar down below in the description box. No pressure, but these are a labor of love. So any donation, no matter how big or how small, is always very deeply appreciated. Have yourself a magical couple of weeks. Happy birthday to any Sagittarius kids out there. Thank you for being here. Mwah! And I will see you next time. Bye. Capricorn Sun and Capricorn Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. Mercury goes retrograde on Monday. Mars goes retrograde at the beginning of December. I'm here to tell you all about it. It's not all bad. Mercury retrograde does have that famous association of miscommunications, missed emails, missed calls, whatever. But because Mercury is currently retrograde in Sagittarius, that simply means that any ways in which we are about to shoot for the stars, expansion, travel, big leaps, those are going to be the ones that are kind of called back for a second, reorganize, recalibrate, you know, maybe a little bit of redirection, and then we'll be able to launch off in a new direction. We're going to be rediscovering hope. We're going to be relighting that spark inside of our hearts. So that's why it's not all bad. It is an opportunity to focus on what our priorities are, what our joy is, and what our ultimate goals and desires are, and then kind of rethink, how can I get there in the most fun or efficient and effective way possible? So Mercury is going to be retrograde in your 12th house. The 12th house is all that is hidden and mysterious. So you may be rethinking any mysteries that you're trying to solve. Those could be spiritual ones. It could be trying to figure out what the heck is happening with your dreams. You might be dreaming about situations that have happened in the past or people that have passed away. You can expect your dreams to be the most affected by Mercury retrograde. And on that note, you might rediscover or want to kind of reintroduce yourself to a dream that you put on a shelf for later because you didn't have time for it before. So it is a very hopeful, positive kind of Mercury retrograde, which is a welcome change, about rediscovering hope, rediscovering fun and excitement, especially if fun, excitement, and hope have felt lost or mysterious to you. That would be a direct connection. Mercury is retrograde in your 12th house, and opposite that, Jupiter is in your 6th house. So on a day-to-day basis, within the mundane aspects of your reality, there is a lot of hope and a lot of blessings and a lot of expansion and possibilities opening up for you, especially when it comes to your day job, and especially if you are willing to make healthy changes to your diet or to your habits within your day-to-day life. You may be thinking about wanting to be a healthier person and then coming to the realization that in order to be a healthier person, you got to make sure that your headspace is a safe space, right? It is a connected system. We can't be like, oh, I want to be healthy, therefore I'm only going to look at my physical body. Physical body is actually directly connected to our mental health. Our mental health is directly connected to our gut health. Our heart is connected to whether or not we have any hope, right? So we have to make sure that we're looking at the holistic system of our existence and not just at one little detail at a time, right? So you might be feeling like you're trying to solve a mystery when it comes to abundance, health, happiness, or all of the above. But we have a new moon in Sagittarius on December 1st, offering us all an opportunity to hit reset. And so that's going to be an opportunity to hit reset when it comes to whatever it is that's happening up here. Taking action on dreams, sleeping better, tackling some mental health issues, speaking about something that's been bothering you that you've been holding back on. We got to clear out the closet. We got to clear out the dust, right? In any way that feels healthy for you. And then moving into December, Mars goes retrograde, and Mars is retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius for you guys. That is your 12th house. So there's a huge 12th house focus for you guys right now. But what's interesting is that in the zodiac chart, it goes from the first house all the way to the 12th house. And so what we see, for example, with like this planetary party happening in Sagittarius, it's just before your birthday. If you're a Capricorn sun, it's just for your birthday. Even if you're a Capricorn rising, what we have is a sense that there's been some sort of planetary journey or karmic adventure that has gone all full circle, and now it's reaching a place of conclusion. So across the board, all of the planetary influences that are happening for you right now are going to be a combination of making peace with that which has been conceptual and bringing it into the actual. Any lessons, any mental health journeys, any healing, any hope, any dreams is going to be about bringing it back in and implementing it in a way that really enhances your quality of life. That's the idea. Let's enhance our quality of life, right? And so December 6th, when Mars goes retrograde, it's going to be activating your 8th house. You're going to want to take action when it comes to any pattern that you're stuck in. It could be a pattern of spending. It could be a pattern of interacting with other people. It could be a generational or karmic pattern that you want to just full stop end, that it does not carry on with you, right? And so it's going to be kind of realizing how everything kind of clicks together. Your headspace, the way you were raised, the karmic things that you inherited, and then what it is you do with this suitcase full of stuff, right? And kind of the more that you can kind of bring all these different factors and pieces together and see it all as a complete system, that's where you're going to find the momentum, the health, and the healthy changes as well. On December 6th, there's going to be a fleeting depression influenced by Mercury square Saturn. Mercury being in your 12th house, that you're still trying to figure out this mystery or solve some sort of issue that's really been bugging you. You're really trying to tie up loose ends and achieve closure, and yet some kind of conversation that you thought you wanted to have goes sideways. Sometimes we make the mistake of doing a whole bunch of healing on our own and then wanting to heal with the person that injured us, and 99% of the time it goes sideways. Basically what I'm seeing is that the best closure, the best healing and growth that you're going to experience is going to come from in here. And when Mercury forms a square to Saturn, there is a very high possibility of opening up to the wrong person and immediately regretting it, or sharing something that's sacred to you with someone who doesn't treat it with sacred reverence. We want to, it would be nice to feel like we could have open conversations with everybody, but it's just not the reality, right? And there is a part of you either realizing or coming to the realization that if something is really, really sacred to you, you're not going to want to talk about it with everyone. You're going to want to be really, really careful who you share those dreams or that vulnerability or those really cool ideas with, so that people don't pop your dream bubble. You know what I mean? But alternatively, if you share something really special and sacred with someone who treats that with sacred reverence, then you're going to have the most incredible breakthrough. You're going to feel validated. You're going to feel supported. You're going to feel understood. So all I'm saying is just be really, really careful who you share that sacred stuff with, right? Because a little bit of encouragement could really go a long way. I really do feel like you need encouragement. I really do feel like you need to get something off your chest. So just be really careful who you choose to engage with. Yeah. And then Venus moves into Aquarius on December 7th. Venus is associated with trust, love, comfort, and abundance. Could be with people, could be with your manifestations, but the theme is the same. When Venus moves into any sign, it brings sweetness to all that it touches. And when it moves into Aquarius, it is going to be in your second house of finances and resources. So moving forwards, honestly, like if you have a money-making idea, if you have a plan, a business plan, a work plan, anything like that, if you have a money-making idea, now is the time. Starting December 7th, Venus will be moving through your second house of manifestations for a solid 3 weeks. So that is prime time to manifest anything at all that it is that you're trying to call into your life. The magic is definitely going to be there. Yeah. So I hope these horoscopes resonated. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope they you found them to be helpful. If you feel inspired and if you're able, I do have a little bit of a tip jar set up down below in the description box. These horoscopes are a labor of love, and so any donation, no matter how big or how small, is always very gratefully appreciated if you're able. But thank you so much for being here. Good luck out there. I hope you have a great couple of weeks, and I will see you next time as we approach the full moon. Mwah. Bye. Aquarius Sun and Aquarius Rising, welcome to your horoscopes. Pluto is now in your sign, which is super awesome. I know it's been in and out and in and out over the last couple of years, but because Pluto represents power and control, when it moves into your sign, as it will be for the next solid 20 years, expect yourself to be walking a path of empowerment. In order to empower yourself, you're also going to have to integrate Pluto's required prerequisites, which is shadow work. And as you seek to empower yourself, you may find that you come up against themes of power and control and shadow work from other people as well. But it is going to be deeply profound. It is going to be life-changing. So buckle up your seatbelts, right? Monday, Mercury goes retrograde. Honestly, Mercury retrograde happens a few times a year. It's not that big of a deal. And this time in particular, with Mercury being retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius, the implications are much more around wanting to change something and having those plans or those ideas either postponed or pushed back. Not a dead end, not a full stop, but just needing some adjustment and needing some patience. Mercury is going to be retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius for 20 days, from November 25th to December 15th. And it will be going retrograde through your 11th house of community. So you may find that any plans that you had or any ideas you wanted to implement in the context of working in your community, that could be food banks, charitable work, art and music, anything like that, you may find that these things get delayed or pushed back or postponed. But just for a couple of weeks, it's not a huge thing. When you experience these pauses, when you experience an opportunity to, like, if you're expecting to move forwards and then you're like, oh, I can't yet, then Mercury, which is retrograde, is opposite Jupiter, which is in your 5th house. So what that means is let's say you had plans to interact with your community. You're going to do an art exhibit. You're going to play a show, whatever it is. And because of Mercury retrograde, it gets pushed back or delayed. It is an opportunity to embrace the opposite energy, which is Jupiter in your 5th house, which is, how can I expand my creativity? How can I take this opportunity to either learn a new skill, perfect one I have, take a day off if I haven't had a day off in a while, you know what I mean? Anything like that. It feels like a snow day, you know? It feels like a snow day on a day that you had to take a big math test where you're like, yes, oh, darn, it got postponed. That's too bad. I'm gonna go play now. You know what I mean? that is the energy of Mercury retrograde for your sign in particular. So whether you're an Aquarius sun or Aquarius rising, that's kind of the vibe of what it's going to feel like. And on December 1st, we have a new moon in Sagittarius. So whatever delay, whatever postponement that you experience is going to offer you an opportunity to actually cultivate creativity for yourself, explore your own dreams, have some fun, right? And that new moon in Sagittarius on December 1st is going to be a moment of realizing, wow, this was actually awesome that things turned out this way. I'm glad there was a delay. I'm glad there was a pause. Or maybe even I'm glad it got canceled. Now I get to do something really fun that I really wanted to do, and I didn't even really want to do that thing anyway. So I really do see you guys coming up smelling like roses. No matter what comes your way, it is definitely going to be a blessing. It's definitely going to have a very, very positive outcome. So just make sure not to judge a book by its cover. You know, quite often our initial reaction is to be like, damn it, what? And we want to push. We want to make those plans happen, right? But in this particular situation, the best thing you can possibly do is just wait it out and have fun while you're waiting it out. Now, sometimes we push and push and push and push, and when we are not willing or able to take a break, universe puts us on our butt. I remember I used to have a house cleaning business. I was running myself ragged. I was burnt out. I was tired, but I couldn't stop because I had bills to pay and I had employees. So it was like this machine, right? And then when at the peak of my stress, at the peak of my exhaustion, I threw up my back. I pinched a nerve. I'm left-handed. I could not feel my left hand. I had like level 10 nerve pain. I was forced to sit on my butt. Sometimes these things happen, right? Often in the form of illness or injury. And what we have to do is, instead of pushing even harder, we have to go, okay, universe, I surrender. Yeah, I needed that break. Yeah, I needed to sit down. And if universe hadn't made me sit down, I never would have done it myself. So, right? Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Whatever it is that happens for you, there is a huge opportunity to have fun with it. Yeah. And then moving into December, on December 6th, Mars goes retrograde. And when Mars, the planet of action, goes retrograde, that is kind of like full stop. That is a sense that like everything just grinds to a halt. It's like a vehicle running out of gas. It's like losing the map on a journey, right? The only appropriate course of action in any of those situations, literal or metaphor, is to sit on your butt. They always tell you, if you get lost in the forest, don't keep walking, go hug a tree. Why do they say hug a tree? Sit your butt down. Stop moving so that somebody can come rescue you. And on that note, if you ever get lost in the woods or anything like that, change your voicemail message to say, hey, I am lost. This is my location. That way, long after your phone dies, anybody who calls you is going to hear you say, I'm lost. This is where to find me, right? Anyway, random survival skill for you. When Mars goes retrograde on December 6th, it is going to be activating and pulling back on your 7th house. Your 7th house is those one-on-one connections. It's going to be a bestie, a parent, a roommate, a lover, a business partner, a boss. One-on-one connections that have pretty high significance in your life. When Mars is retrograde, it is going to feel like action that somebody else was going to take doesn't happen. So maybe somebody said they were going to help you and then they bail. Maybe you had a business meeting, somebody doesn't show up. You know what I mean? So it's actually for you guys, whether you're an Aquarius sun or Aquarius rising, for you guys, it's going to feel like it's other people screwing up. It's other people saying, oh, never mind, I changed my mind, or whatever it is. So one of my slogans that I came up with years and years ago was, plans that depend on other people are not plans. That is going to apply to you guys during Mars retrograde. I'm very sorry to tell you this, but Mars is going to be retrograde from December 6th of this year to February 23rd of next year. No joke, just shy of 3 months, where it's going to feel like nothing's happening. It's going to feel like somebody who said they were going to do something doesn't end up doing the thing. If something is a very, very high priority for you and you're already receiving that feedback that somebody is either iffy or non-committal or whatever, just do it yourself. Don't wait for that other person, because odds are they're not going to come through. They're going to drag their feet. They're going to waste their time. They're not going to give you a clear answer. And in the end, they're going to bail anyway, right? Plans that depend on other people are not plans. But alternatively, you cannot do everything yourself. If you have been put on your butt, rest. If you are exhausted and burnt out, don't push yourself anymore. If somebody bails on the plans, well, maybe it's good so that you don't have to do an extra thing, right? Across the board, no matter what zodiac sign you are, this is carrying a general theme of blessings that are initially perceived as a curse or a problem. So if something happens, your initial reaction is going to be like, WTF? But if you give it a minute, you're going to see that it actually really, really benefits you to not have the thing happen, whatever it is. And then Venus moves into Aquarius on December 7th. So when Venus moves into Aquarius, it does bring sweetness to all that it touches. It is going to make you feel warm and fuzzy. You're going to feel really good about yourself. You're going to have a boost in confidence, a boost in compassion and self-love. And it's also going to bring an influence of very rosy reception. What I mean by that is that people are going to see you in a really, really good light. You're going to make amazing impressions. People are going to want to agree with you. People are going to want to support you or buy into whatever it is that you want to do. So if there was something you were going to do and somebody's being iffy and backing out, F it. Find somebody else, because you're going to make a fabulous impression. Now is a great time to ask for a raise, sell a product, promote yourself, anything like that, because you really are going to be seen in the best possible light. So Venus will be in your sign starting December 7th and going till just at the end of December, I believe. Yeah, so lots of creative potential. Just remember, it's not all bad. This will work out, and it's going to have a fun, happy ending, actually. And it probably is exactly what you needed, right? Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed your horoscopes. I do have a tip jar set up down below in the description box. These horoscopes are a labor of love, and any donation is always very gratefully appreciated if you're able, right? No expectation whatsoever. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a magical 2 weeks, and I will see you again as we approach the full moon. Mwah. Take care. Pisces Sun and Pisces Rising. Welcome to your horoscopes. We got a lot going on. We got 2 major planets going retrograde, but whatever. It's just another day, right? On Monday, Mercury the Messenger does go retrograde. It is in the sign of Sagittarius. And what's interesting about Mercury being in Sagittarius is it does carry an energy of kind of speaking off the cuff, whether that be being blunt, or speaking with no filter, or accidentally spoiling a surprise or revealing a secret. Mercury in Sagittarius is going to have that influence on all of us right now. And when Mercury is retrograde, what it could mean in this specific context is that you or someone else, for example, spills a secret, and then retrograde, it comes right back to you and you get in trouble for it. Or you engage in gossip and the person you were talking about hears about it like within 5 minutes and then calls to give you shit, you know? Expect karmic return. Be very, very careful about what you say, because those words can very quickly come back to you and in a very unflattering kind of way. But nonetheless, Mercury is retrograde in your 10th house. The 10th house is associated with our long-term goals and plans, whether that be a career that we're trying to build or maybe buying a house. The themes are all around big goals that take a long time to accomplish, and ultimately the desire is to achieve stability. And so what that means is that anything you've been thinking about or talking about or planning when it comes to 10th house themes, expect delays, expect miscommunications, expect things to either be put on hold or maybe needing review. So like if you were going for a raise or a promotion and at first, you know, your boss or your workplace are like, oh yeah, I think we can make that happen. As soon as Mercury retrograde comes, they're going to be like, actually, I'm going to need you to wait like at least a month because we don't have the money or we don't have the time or whatever it is, right? But this is where I want to tell you, it's not necessarily a solid no. It's not necessarily a brick wall. It's a pause, it's a wait, it's reflect and reassess. And then when Mercury comes out of retrograde, then it will be go time. So just kind of expect that, expect the unexpected. And anytime Mercury is retrograde, especially because Sagittarius, where it is shooting for the stars. It's the archer. And so any big goals or dreams that you had, especially if they take long-term planning, if they get put on hold, if there's some sort of a pause or a delay, we can use that. We can use that as an opportunity to get more clear, more efficient, you know, really focus on those priorities or narrow down what our plan or policy, procedure, approach is going to be, right? It's not wasted time. And in fact, across the board, for a lot of people, it's going to be a blessing in disguise to have that opportunity to rethink before a big purchase, or, you know what I mean? So very specifically, especially because Jupiter is in your 4th house, you're wanting to expand. 4th house themes are emotional health, but also like your literal home. And so with Jupiter in your 4th house, for some of you guys, you're wanting to expand your home turf. So you might be thinking, okay, I want to buy a house, or I want to put my house up for sale and look at what's out there, right? But then Mercury retrograde in your 10th house is things being put on hold, things being put on pause. Let's say you were about to drop a whole bunch of money for this house that you totally fell in love with. Mercury retrograde says, actually, you need an inspection. This house sale is conditional. You have to get an inspection. And you might be grumpy. You might be like, damn it, I want to buy it now. But you do the inspection and guess what? They find millions of problems. And in the end, you're going to be like, wow, I'm glad I didn't spend that money. I'm glad I didn't rush into things, right? So I just wanted to give you an example of how sometimes these things are blessings in disguise. You know, any hold that comes through, use it to your advantage. Ask yourself, what could I see in this situation? What is universe giving me an opportunity to rethink? And how could that ultimately be in my highest good right now, right? So that's the idea. The other thing when I is stepping away from 3D physical manifestations, the other thing too is that the 10th house is all about feeling stable, feeling like there's a future. And the 4th house is all about the emotional health and the foundations from which we grow. So with Mercury retrograde opposite Jupiter right now, you know, Mercury retrograde is inviting you to think, how can I be healthier? How can I maybe not push myself to hustle, to be a part of the machine? You know what I mean? How can I actually take a step back and rethink my strategy in a way that actually feels way better, more peaceful, more emotionally healthy, less burnout, right? So it's an opportunity to rethink, and what we're doing is we're leading up to a new moon in Sagittarius on December 1st. And when we have this new moon in Sagittarius in your 10th house, it's kind of like seeing the light of whatever it is your long-term plans either had in store, or maybe seeing the flaws in them and going, oh, I never saw that before. It's really, really good that I noticed that, right? So don't push, don't rush, take any pause, any opportunity to rethink and re-strategize. It is in your highest good. And it is going to lead to a new relationship with hope for the future. Because the new moon in Sagittarius is an opportunity to reset our hope, our vision for the future, our dreams, and what sort of possibilities we're imagining, right? So if up until this point you've been feeling no hope, no dreams, no possibilities, then these circumstances are going to help you get to a place of where you're like, actually, now I have hope. Now I feel like there are possibilities. So let life surprise you, right? Now moving into December 6th, Mars goes retrograde. Mars is the planet associated with taking action. So that means that any full-on path of action, especially when it comes to our identity or our ego or personal advancement, that is very much so going to be put on hold. Again, not a brick wall, not a dead end, but definitely not a lot of potential for growth or movement over the next couple of months. Yes, couple of months. Mars is going to be retrograde from December 6th to February 23rd of next year. Sorry, just shy of 3 months. And it's going to be moving through Leo, where it is right now, and going back into Cancer. So with Mars being retrograde for almost 3 months, it's going to feel like life kind of hits a standstill. It's going to feel like whatever sort of big dreams or big things we had going on, all of a sudden are like slow as mud. Now, if you had started something before the retrogrades, it will keep going just a little bit more slowly. If you try and start something major in the middle of a retrograde, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Not to say it can't happen, but it's going to take extra planning, extra patience, and extra willingness to adapt or compromise along the way. Yeah. So Mars retrograde is going to be happening in your 6th house of daily activities, work, and health. Again, there is a very specific context of any of you that are gunning for a promotion or a raise, that's going to be put on hold. Excuse me. Any of you that were hoping to invest in major stuff, estate stuff, like a house or something like that, that's going to be put on hold. Not a dead end, but an opportunity to rethink and re-strategize. And then Venus moves into Aquarius. So on December 7th, the planet of love, trust, comfort, and abundance is moving into Aquarius, which is the inventor. It's all about technology. It's about thinking outside of the box, doing something completely differently. And it might even feel alien to us, but it's an opportunity to stretch outside of our comfort zone. So when Venus moves into Aquarius, for you guys, it's going to be your 12th house of dreams, imagination, intuition, but also mystery. And so one of the things that might happen is, you know, someone I love very much worked in a job for a while, and they had promised her a raise. They said, after a amount of time, we're going to give you this raise. They named the amount. Well, that time came up. She said, I'd love to talk to you about the raise. And they're like, yeah, actually, I don't think it's gonna happen. She did the right thing and quit that job, because F that, right? This is kind of what I'm seeing here, is that for those of you that notice a direct effect on your work or your career, you may find that the delays that happen, or you know, the obstacles you experience, you may find that it's systemic, that it's not coincidental, that it is very intentional. If you come to the realization that you have been lied to or fooled, or someone's stringing you along and has no intention of following through, that is when you might come to the realization that there is a mystery to solve, that you did not see the bigger picture, and that the healthiest thing, the thing in your highest good, would be to stop playing this game and go somewhere where you're really appreciated and really valued, right? But like I said, everybody's going to experience this a little bit differently. It just so happens that for Pisces rising and Pisces sun, there's a very clear connection between work, daily activities, money, and our long-term goals, right? So I hope this was helpful. I hope that it resonated. I do have a little bit of a tip jar set up down in the description box if you feel so inspired and you're able, just because this is a labor of love, and any donation, no matter how big or how small, always helps and is always very gratefully accepted and appreciated. I do hope that these were helpful. Thank you so much for being here. I wish you guys all the very best. Good luck out there, and I will see you in 2 weeks around the full moon. Mwah. Bye.